All right, what's going on, everybody? It's my home studio today. I've done some of these debates before. I did a debate with Andrew Wilson last week from my home studio, and today he's done my show before. His name is Tom Renz. He's a prominent American attorney, obviously a political commentator, a staunch supporter of Donald Trump. And as he just said when we were off the air, we do have a lot to talk about. Tom, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. How are you?
I'm doing well, Brian. I do think we got a lot to talk about. It might surprise you on a few things tonight.
Yeah, you've been outspoken, and let's start on something that I think we're going to agree on, which is the Epstein files. Let me start with this. What did you make of Pam Bondi's testimony today? Because I thought it was, for lack of a better term, you know what, crazy.
I think that's the nicest thing you can say about it. I mean, listen, I'm going to get crap because there's a certain group of people on the MAGA side of the world that just believe that you should just follow whatever the edict is. And I'm an idealist, man. I do what I do because I believe it's the right thing to do. And I don't care who it is. I wouldn't support Merrick Garland if he did that crap. And I certainly don't support Pam Bondi doing it. What we saw today was an embarrassment. We have absolute indisputable evidence of a 30-plus year child rape ring, and what I can only describe is a rape sex death cult. And yet, instead of going after this, instead of bringing everybody together, because this should be Democrat, Republican, it should be universal. We should all come together to protect kids. Instead of doing that, we get dodged questions, we get just ridiculous answers, and we get a reference to the stinking Dow. I mean, we're going to reference the stock market instead of actually answering the question and say,
hey, that was wild, Tom, wasn't it? So obviously I agree with everything you just said. Is it problematic to you? Forget about possible criminality with Donald Trump, because obviously this is the guy you voted for. Is it problematic to you that he's in the files over 3,000 times?
So I'm being real careful on this, and I'm not going to come out and defend Trump on this. I'm not. Okay. I'm going to tell you that, to my mind, what I haven't seen anything that's really definitive saying that he did anything raping a kid. If he does, I'll say it here. If there's actual evidence that he was
raping, 13-year-old came forward. We know a 13-year-old had come forward. We've seen some of the FBI paperwork. We've seen weird redactions. Donald Trump also said that he didn't know in 2019 that there was any criminality with Jeffrey Epstein before he was arrested. And then now we've learned that he did an interview with an FBI agent where he said the opposite. So I guess my question to you is, what is he hiding here? He doesn't want us. He's called people like you and me stupid for just talking about this stuff. As you know, he gets very agitated when any reporter asked him about this. And there's still 3 million files we haven't seen. So do you think it's unreasonable for me to believe he might have done some horrible things?
Well, I don't think we have proof that he did, but I'm going to tell you this. Is it unreasonable for you to question it? No, because we have lies. I mean, listen, I want to tell you that my guy is a hero on this and he's doing the right thing. I don't personally believe that Trump did anything that way, but I do believe he's covering this up. And maybe that's bias, right? I'll give you that might be bias. But I will tell you, I don't think Donald Trump did anything with kids. If I'm wrong, I will be the first one to call for his head.
But to your credit, you are saying at a minimum he's covering up for other pedos. Is that kind of what I'm getting from you?
He's allowing this to happen.
Right.
And this isn't going to go away. And listen, I'm going to catch all sorts of hell, but I'm not going to let this drop. At the end of the day, I have 2 sons, right? I started fighting COVID. And I fought Biden tooth and nail through the COVID stuff. I fought everything I could fight on this difference. I fought for, you and I, we've talked about censorship. I hated the censorship under Biden. But now, it's my guy sitting in the office, right? And it's my guy, right? I voted for him. I advocated for him. But my guy isn't doing right on this.
But what about a guy like a Howard, Tom, what about a guy like a Howard Lutnick? There's 3, but he hasn't. That's what I'm getting to. Lutnick lied about being on Epstein Island. He said he wasn't. Now he has to, under oath, admit he was there. He said he's brought his family there, which is beyond bizarre. Oh. There are several people in Trump's administration that are in the Epstein files. Yet Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, the vice president, Vance, have all said we have full. And by the way, even the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, said we have the full backing of how. What do you make of that? How could you have the full backing of a guy who was not only on Epstein Island, but lied about it last week?
I have no defense for it. None whatsoever. He's lied numerous times. At the end of the day, I mean, listen, I actually put a tweet out and I kind of joked about this. I said, hey, what you doing today, honey? You want to take the kids to go hang out with a pedophile? I mean, who does that? Who does that? This is
so. What is your explanation, Tom? This is a guy that you've met. You know Donald Trump. What is your explanation as to why Trump, at a minimum, doesn't fire Howard Lutnick immediately, doesn't fire Pam Bondi immediately?
Well, I won't say that I've never met Donald Trump, not in person. I've worked with a lot of people around him.
Gotcha.
Definitely, I'm not going to deny I have very close ties to all sorts of good people. Good people, I would like to think. Apparently, maybe some bad people. But at the end of the day, I really don't have an explanation. And I am not going to defend what's going on with Epstein files. I think, listen, to my mind, President's Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, to me, is one of the most corrupt pieces of garbage in the administration. I've spoken out about her extensively. I think she's crooked. I've done a lot of homework on that particular issue. She worked with Pam Bondi at Ballard and Associates. She worked for Mercury LLC, which is a big lobbying firm. She was a managing partner there. And that lobbying firm was owned by Omnicom, which is a WEF partner. There's a whole line of dirt around this. Now, it's very well known that, and this has been confirmed to me, that Wiles really runs the entire executive branch with an iron fist. I mean, she just has got it tied down. So I think she has a pretty substantial hand in this. Why, at the end of the day, though, I don't know whether she's trying to convince Trump or not, but at the end of the day, Donald Trump has to be aware. Listen, you got 6.5 million pages that they've acknowledged of evidence of child rape and sadistic torture, abuse, murder. I mean, we've got the Zorro Ranch, the kids that were apparently buried out there. We got the sulfuric acid that they bought to dissolve bodies, in theory. We've got all this stuff. And you're going to tell me you're okay with saying we should just move on from this? No, I'm not okay with it.
So you had Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's former personal attorney, who's basically said what you just said. You have Pam Bondi. And I thought what was horrible, there's so many things that are horrible about today, but when you had those victims that were sitting 20 feet from Pam Bondi, she wouldn't even turn around and acknowledge them, let alone apologize to them. I just thought that was despicable. Let me go back to Donald Trump, Tom, real quickly here. Now, I appreciate the fact that you said, listen, you don't think it's unreasonable for me to think that Trump might have done some illegal things with children, even though you don't think he did. But the reason why I say that, Tom, is because, first of all, he was best friend with Epstein for over 10 years. We know that he's been on the flight log at least 8 times. We know that he's lied about his personal relationship with Epstein. And then I go to his history. This isn't a guy who, has never been alleged of committing a sexual crime. As you know, 25 women have come forward alleging that Trump raped or sexually abused them. He was found liable for sexual abuse. E. Jean Carroll. He sexualized his own daughter, if you recall. And this is a guy who bragged about going into teenage girls' locker rooms when he was running a pageant. He bragged about it in a sexual manner on the Howard Stern show. So this guy has a history. And he knew that Jeffrey Epstein liked young girls. In fact, he even commented about that and said, yeah, he likes them really young. Then why are you hanging out with somebody like this? Why are you partying with this guy? So, I absolutely think there's some criminality there. And I understand there's not a smoking gun. Like, I can't point to you for DNA evidence, but there have been accusers that have come forward. I don't have DNA evidence, right? I don't have a smoking gun, but there's certainly a lot of circumstantial evidence. Would you give me that at least?
I'll give you that there's reasons to ask questions. And I'm going to tell you that the number one reason to ask questions is they're not being truthful about this, right? The way that you handle this is like PR 101, right? When you've got a public relations crisis, the last thing you do is try and cover it up and lie about it, especially when it's provable. Right. This isn't like debatable. This has been the Epstein rape files have been going on. This has been going on since Clinton. I mean, this has been out there forever, and it's Republicans, it's Democrats, it's everybody. And anybody who's paying attention knows that this guy's job was essentially to get videos of rich and powerful people and then blackmail them. Pam Bondi specifically said, and here's what really gets me. Pam Bondi says there's tens of thousands of hours of video, right? Okay, if you got tens of thousands of hours of video, tell me why you can't take the name. I don't want to see the video. I want the names of the people who are doing the horrible things in the video, and then I want to know what you're going to do to prosecute them. That's what
So Tom, I agree with that, but don't you think that Kash Patel perjured himself, lied under oath when he said Trump wasn't in the files more than 100 times? He was asked that by Swalwell. He was also asked a question he wouldn't answer. Did you tell Pam Bondi that Trump is in the files? I mean, Kash Patel lied under oath. We know that for sure. In fact, Swalwell pointed that out today. Shouldn't Kash Patel resign? And do you think that he should be convicted of a charge of perjuring himself?
I think Kash Patel perjured himself, and I think Bondi perjured herself. I think anybody. Listen, I'm MAGA. I've been fighting. I came out to Vegas and held a rally for Trump on my own dime, right? So I'm a Trump guy. I want to be a Trump guy, but right now,
are you still a Trump guy?
I want to be. I want him to come back to what he was when we thought he was fighting for us. But right now, listen, it's not just this. It's digital ID, and this is something you and I can probably agree on, right? Do you want to be have a digital ID? Do you want track and trace? No. Democrats, Republicans, no one wants that. But yet the Real ID Act, I've got a tweet pinned to the top of my X profile. I lay out the law through the Real ID Act and the enacting regulations. We now have digital ID in this country. I'm sorry, that's not MAGA. That's not
but
MAGA.
You're right.
Protecting child rapists, not MAGA.
So, Tom, obviously, for the most part, I think we agree on the Epstein stuff. But let's talk about some other things that I think a lot of Republicans are upset about. First of all, the biggest tax breaks for the top 1%, $100 billion. The big and beautiful bill is hurting a lot of everyday paycheck to paycheck Americans, some of whom voted for Donald Trump. 20 million people losing their Medicaid coverage. Millions are losing food stamps. There's a lot of people. I haven't even brought up the farmers. And he said he was going to be a no-war president, right? We saw what took place in Venezuela. We saw what's taken place in Iran. There's no peace in the Middle East. He campaigned on the war is going to be over in 24 hours. All I have to do is pick up the phone. What does he do? He curls out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin on American soil. No concessions that Russia's given up. He said, America first, America first. When he says, let's bring in 600,000 Chinese people because we don't have enough talented people in the United States of America. Let's bail out other economies. It doesn't sound to me like this is America first. And it doesn't sound to me like anybody is benefiting off of this economy other than the richest of the rich. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Well, there were a lot of things you said in there that I disagree with, but there are some things you said that I agree with, right? So, I mean, it's an issue by issue thing. I will tell you that right now, I've got a number of issues that are going on. So let me give you another one. Let me give you another example of something I don't like. Right now, we're building in a lot of the AI and a lot of the AI infrastructure, which, listen, is it the way of the future? Of course it is. Here's the problem. We tried to put in legislation, and this is a GOP thing. They tried to put in legislation saying the states can't regulate AI. Well, here's the deal. Brian, this is something that I work a lot on. I work on the AI issues, where it's going, and there's a lot of threats with AI. Right now, we're building another self-driving semi factory. 3.5 million Americans drive semi, blue collar, take care of their family, drive semi. When the semis are all automated, where do those people go? What do they do for a job? Right? Oh, universal basic income. Universal basic income is not MAGA. It's not something that most of the mega bases are okay with. When we look at different things, the visa thing, bringing in the foreign workers, a lot of the base is not happy with that. I'm not happy with that. When we look at things, you and I disagree on Ukraine. I'm sorry. That war to me is absolutely abhorrent. I don't want anything to do with it.
Who started it?
Who started it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Putin invaded, but
right.
But to be honest with you, I think we got enough problems here, and they've stolen how much money has been.
So then why does he coddle Vladimir Putin? Why does he roll out the red carpet for Putin? Why have they not given up any concessions? If your position is, okay, we need to stay out of it, that's one thing. But at the same time, why is he having one day he'll say Putin wants to end this, and then the next day they'll murder a bunch of innocent women and children? Why has he never called Putin a dictator like Joe Biden did, but yet he calls Vladimir Zelensky a dictator? Surely you don't agree with that.
I don't think either of them are good. That's why I want nothing to do with that war.
You would compare Zelensky with Putin as far as bad people? I mean, Putin's responsible for murdering hundreds of thousands of people, including journalists. I mean, Zelensky, to my knowledge, has never done any of those things.
Zelensky's filched every dime he can that we've given him. He's living as a billionaire while his people are suffering. He's no better than Putin in my mind. I'm sorry, I just don't like either of them. And I'll give you that Putin's a bad guy, but you aren't going to get me to go give you the.
Yeah, but Zelensky hasn't intentionally tried to kill innocent people, has he?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I can't prove this, so you can take it for what it's worth. I looked into to Ukraine, right? And I've been honest with you about everything I think, so you can take it for what it's worth. When I talked to people in and around it, and they talked about some of the things happening on the ground, it sounds to me like Zelensky's done more than a few shady things. Setting things up where people got killed so that he had the right camera, media for this or media for that. I don't like Zelensky at all. I think he's a crook. I think he's a con artist. And I think he's a monster. I don't think Putin's a good guy by any means. I mean, I don't think but I just think that they're both garbage. And I don't know why we're sticking our nose into it, and to the tune of how many billions of dollars have we spent on that mess between two crooks? I mean, the only people getting rich out of this are the people that are selling the guns.
I understand to an extent what you're saying, but I certainly wouldn't call Zelensky an evil dictator or a murderer. I certainly would call Putin that 100%. And this is maybe where we disagree. But I think if we're going to use the term con artist, I would put Donald Trump there at the front of the list, a guy who's enriched his family billions of dollars. He is 10 times richer today than he was when he first got into office. He is literally selling pardons. And how do we know this? There's actually evidence of it. There's evidence that if you give Trump in the crypto scandal, if you put 80% of the money in, we're gonna get you out of jail. It's a get out of jail free card pardon. So I don't know. I just think we could go down the list of Trump and corruption. I'm not saying Zelensky hasn't done anything wrong, but he certainly hasn't invaded another country, and he's not responsible for killing hundreds of thousands of innocent people. But speaking of killing innocent people, if you're just joining us, Tom Renz with us, political commentator, attorney. Tom, I want to talk to you a little bit about ICE. Let's start with those two shootings, which I would consider them murder, and I can give you reasons why, but I want to get your thoughts on it. When you saw the Renee Good shooting and you saw the Alex Preddy shooting, what went through your mind? And because I don't know what your opinions are on this.
Yeah, well, that's because I haven't spent as much time on it, to be honest with you. As chaotic as that is, to me, this whole thing this is kind of like another thing where I think everybody's wrong on this. Do we need to enforce immigration laws? Absolutely. Did we do a terrible job? Yes. Now we have millions and millions of people who are here illegally. What do we do with that? Right. And some of them are horrible people. I mean, there are horrible people that came here. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And now, can I say a majority? No, I have no numbers to back it up. But at the end of the day, we have to figure out what we're going to do with that mess. And when I look at this, here's the problem I have. Right now, you've got a group of people who are literally organizing to break a law. And what I mean by that is we have evidence. We have real evidence. People have infiltrated lists. We've seen people coordinating, and they're coordinating to obstruct federal law enforcement. And they're doing so in a way like I support free speech. You know how I am on censorship, free speech. I'm big on it. And I don't care. Everybody has the right to protest. I'll stand behind that. I'll defend it, period. Whether I agree with what you're saying or not, I'll defend it. But there's a difference between protesting and obstructing, right? So if I know that law enforcement's doing something, I can absolutely protest it. What I can't do is throw rocks at them. What I can't do is block.
What did Alex Preddy do? What law was Alex Preddy breaking?
Was he the guy that got shot?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Shot in the back, shot 10 times. He was unarmed when he was shot, never brandished his weapon. They took his weapon away. I think he's guilty of trying to help a woman up off the ground. And then they pepper spray him. They push him to the ground. He's beaten and punched. They take his weapon from him. He's unarmed. And then they shoot him. 2 officers shoot him. And I consider it an absolute execution. As far as Renee Good is concerned, while I wish she got out of the car, based on the evidence that I saw, she wasn't trying to hit an officer. She was trying to get out of there, which I don't condone, but that shouldn't be a death sentence, right, Tom? I mean.
So I'm going to disagree with you on both of them, just as I looked at it as a lawyer, right? So what I saw, and I saw a bunch of different things in the Preddy case, and I didn't study this extensively, right? My initial reaction was, oh, that's horrible. And I feel bad for either of them getting shot. That's too bad in both cases. But so with Preddy, he was clearly resisting. He was doing his thing. What I heard during the video, gun, gun, gun. It looked like he was grabbing something.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. There was.
I saw something different. No one on the record has said that he brandished his weapon except for Kristi Noem, and then she walked that back. And by the way, it's important to note that when they shot him, he did not even have the weapon on his person.
No, I agree with you. I didn't see it. I'm not saying he brandished his weapon. I'm saying that I heard during the scuffle, right? So there's a scuffle going on.
Someone said gun, gun, gun. And then you're correct. And he was legally carrying, by the way. And then seconds later, you see.
Which I support.
Right. And I understand. And then a couple seconds later, there is a officer who takes the weapon from him.
Yes.
And then they shoot him when he's unarmed. And then you see an officer say, yeah.
In between, someone says gun, gun, gun.
Right.
And there was a scuffle. And what I would say, because when you look at this, if I was defending this, right, if I was a lawyer on this, and I'm not a criminal attorney, that's not what I do. But if I was looking at this, when you look at a criminal action, you have to have what's called the mens rea and the actus reus. Okay. So as a lawyer, when you look at this, you have to have the requisite mental state and the action, and they have to come together at the same time. Now, in this case, what I think probably happened, and listen, we can argue about the fact that he got shot like 800 times, right? I'll give you that. But you hear gun, 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 and it looks like he's reaching for it. It wasn't a gun. I don't know whether it's a cell phone. I don't know.
I mean, he had his phone in one of his hands.
I would
respectfully disagree with you. I haven't seen any evidence to point to the fact that he was ever reaching for a weapon. And again, this is important to note. He didn't even have a weapon on him when he was shot and killed.
I don't think he was reaching for a weapon. What I think was during the scuffle, his gun was removed. Someone yells gun, gun, gun. They look down, they see something black in his hand. It was just probably a cell phone. And someone got over, they did wrong. They shot him, right? Now, does that mean murder? Well, here's the problem. If that guy heard gun, 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 and saw him grab something and he thought it was a gun, he would have been in reasonable apprehension for the fear of his life.
So there were two people that fired their weapons. He was on all fours when they shot him. The first shots were in his back. I would also say who escalated that situation. I think that's also very important.
All of these things are valid, every one of them. But I think it's very oversimplistic to say that it was just a random execution. Do I think?
Okay, but do you think it's oversimplistic to call him a domestic terrorist and an assassin? That's what Stephen Miller called him. That's what Kristi Noem called him. Literally, we're talking, Tom, hours after the shooting. They did the same thing with Renee Good. She called her a domestic terrorist, which clearly she was not. You can disagree with her being in the road. You can disagree with her not getting out of the car, and we can get into that shooting.
With her the way she basically hit the guy with her car. I looked at I did see her drive into the guy, knock the guy out of the way with her car. I mean, I think was much more justified. The guy had listen, you don't drive a car. This is just common sense. The guy's got a gun. You don't drive your car at him. You don't think, you're going to get out of the way. All
right, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. But let's talk about common sense with Renee Good. Starting with, you have one officer that says, pardon my French here, get the fuck out. You have another officer in Officer Jonathan Ross. Let's talk about his cell phone footage.
Well, she was obstructing justice, I would argue.
Yeah, let's just say she's committing a misdemeanor. Let's just give you that, okay? You don't walk up to a vehicle and say, get the fuck out. You don't try to pull on the door. You start to talk to her. She says to Jonathan Ross, I'm not mad at you, dude. Why isn't Jonathan Ross trying to converse with her? Hi, ma'am. My name is Officer Ross. I'm with blah, 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 blah. Here's what we're going to need you to do. You know what he does? Everything that you're not supposed to do according to law enforcement protocols. He walks to the back of the vehicle while holding his cell phone and recording. Why did he do that? Then he walks to the front of the vehicle and stops. He stops in front of the vehicle, which you're not supposed to do, reaches for his gun with one hand while he's recording on his cell phone in the other hand. The car struck him so aggressively that he stayed on his feet, kept his cell phone in his hand. First shot goes through the window or the windshield, and then the second, third, and fourth shot are on the side of the vehicle when she's no longer a threat to him. And then what does he do after the shooting? He calls her an effing bitch. which is incredible, and then walks over to check on her, I guess, doesn't check her pulse, doesn't provide any life-saving care when we've been told she had a pulse for up to 8 minutes. He casually walks back to his unmarked vehicle, says, guys, call 911, gets into his car and breaks more protocols because the weapon and himself leave the scene. These are we're talking 10 different protocols that he and this other officer broke, and there's no full investigation. Kristi Noem calls her a domestic terrorist. And you have so many people on the right. I was listening to Clay Travis today, who, in my opinion, I've debated him on Piers Morgan, despicable human being, calling her partner a lesbian, mocking her because she's gay. Michael Knowles did the exact same thing. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a 37-year-old woman, regardless of what you think her actions were that day, in my opinion, didn't deserve to die. And you're calling her a domestic terrorist, someone who's never been arrested for a crime before in her life. She just dropped off her son at school. Do I wish she got out of the vehicle? Of course. Do I wish that she complied? Of course. But they did not de-escalate. I'm sorry, Tom. Those officers did not de-escalate. They escalated the situation, and I believe she would still be alive today if you had law enforcement or ICE officers that were more properly trained in not 47 days. These officers don't know how to de-escalate. And there should have been a full-on investigation. But you know what happened, Tom? This man is now a millionaire. So what Trump's administration are saying, basically, give me 47 days of training, shoot a woman in the face, and we're going to make you a millionaire. Because Jonathan Ross is now a millionaire. I find that very troubling. Very troubling.
Why is he a millionaire?
Because of donations.
I'm actually asking. Oh, okay.
Donations. The same types of people that donated to this adult woman who called this 5-year-old African-American the N-word, if you recall. This happened about 8 or 9 months ago. These people are despicable. They're despicable.
I'll tell you what, I will give you part of this if you'll give me something back. Right. So let's talk about this. So did they de-escalate it? No. Did they probably make some protocol errors? And by some, I mean quite a few. Sure. I'll give you that. Okay. Now, if Minnesota police and law enforcement were properly supporting federal law enforcement, there would have been properly trained police officers there who were there to do more than just immigration and customs enforcement, right? ICE is trained for immigration. They're not trained to be cops. They're not meant to be cops. They have law enforcement authority, but they are not trained that way.
Then why are they acting like cops?
Well, because Tim Walz and his leftist nutbags won't support federal law enforcement in following the laws that they have to carry out. Listen, Tim Walz is part of the problem here. And you've got to give me this. If ICE wasn't constantly being attacked, if people weren't throwing bricks at them, if they weren't constantly on guard in this way, they probably wouldn't be so defensive. This is a mutual problem. I am okay. From my side, I'll say, yeah, you're right. These guys should have done better. And it's unfortunate. Now we got a dead woman. But you've got to give me that my guys shouldn't have been in that position because there should have been proper law enforcement support for ICE actions. ICE is following federal law.
When ICE won't,
you don't have to like the federal law, but those guys have a job to do. And instead of supporting them and doing their job, Tim Walz has openly talked about how they protest away, do what you want to do. He's supporting these people.
Supporting protesting that's our First Amendment right.
No.
Tom, I don't.
Supporting protesting is supporting active obstruction of justice is not.
When has Tim Walz ever endorsed obstructing ICE officers? What has he ever said that would?
To me, that he doesn't know what's going on. That's like me saying to you, no, Trump doesn't know what's going on with Epstein. You can't.
They've said peacefully.
Can't ask me to not be naive. And then you act naive about your.
All right. Well, I'll make an analogy to this. A lot of people like you and others don't want to put any responsibility on Donald Trump for January 6th. You say, well, he said go ahead and peacefully protest. You can't have it both ways. Tim Walz has never said or endorsed violence. And the reason why so many local law enforcement aren't working at ICE, because ICE are literally breaking the law. They're kicking down doors without warrants. They're taking away people's Fourth Amendment rights, asking people for paperwork, which is illegal unless you have reasonable or articulable suspicion that they've committed a crime. You had a woman that was in the middle of the street. I don't know. Maybe you could cite her for, maybe a misdemeanor, and that escalated. I mean, that can't happen. Now, listen, I don't condone anybody breaking the law, throwing rocks at ICE agents. By the way, if you're doing that, you're going to get arrested. Okay. And Tim Walz and Frey have never endorsed any type of violence in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, now they're withdrawing troops. You have Bavano or whatever the hell his name is, who's a complete clown, who is no longer in Minneapolis. He's a shameful person. You have Kristi Noem, who has effed everything up from the get-go here and made her opinions known, that she called Renee Good a domestic terrorist. And they said he had internal bleeding. We haven't had any evidence of that. Only two unnamed sources that CBS claimed he had internal bleeding, when the next day there's actual video and pictures of him moving stuff around in front of his house. He wasn't injured. What I want is, I hope what you want. I want an independent investigation into both shootings, but we're not going to have that. You know why? Because we just learned, Tom, and I don't know if you knew this or not, the investigators were looking at blood spatter in Renee Good's car, and Kash Patel told them to stop. He literally gave them commands to stop investigating this because it might make Donald Trump look bad. And I find this, again, extremely problematic. It didn't need to get to this point, okay? I agree with you in a sense of, yeah, we don't want undocumented immigrants that are violent criminals in this country, but over 70% of the people that they're detaining are nonviolent criminals that have never been arrested for a crime in their life. We were told, we're going to go after the violent criminals. That's not happening. And they're also arresting U.S. citizens. We had a 5-year-old kid that was deported, U.S. citizen, by the way. Judge said, you got to come back. This stuff has to stop. To me, it's just getting out of control.
How do you deal with it, Brian? I mean, I'm asking you real serious, and I'm not playing the
Sure, I'll tell you.
So how do you
go
deal
into the
with
jails?
Millions and millions of undocumented coming over here? And how do you determine which ones are the good, which ones are the bads?
Well, you don't racially profile.
Congress's abdication in this? What about the abdication of the duty of Congress, who should have the balls to pass some sort of legislation to deal with this one way or another? And then we all need to get behind it and support the law, because if we can't follow the laws, then what are we? We're just a mess.
Well, I agree with that. And I would say the Trump administration and Donald Trump should probably follow the law as well. And we know that they're not doing that on a number of different occasions, and I can give you examples there. So you asked me, what should we do?
Perjury, right? We talked about perjury, but here's the deal. I'll give you that they're not perfect. I will give you that my side's not perfect. But listen, the Democrats are no better. The Democrats, I believe there was a Minnesota, I could have this wrong, but I know there was some elected official, I believe a Minnesota state senator or something like that was in the Signal group coordinating with these guys about the protests, coordinating to obstruct justice. I mean, that's arguably a RICO case. It's a minimum a conspiracy to obstruct justice. There are numerous crimes being committed by Democrats too. So listen, if you want to call my side bad, that's fine, but we got to talk about your side as well. Although I got to be honest, we're getting to the point, and I wanted you to hear this. We're getting to the point. It's hard for me to pick a side because it looks like a uniparty corrupt mess to me everywhere I look.
Well, here's what I will say. You couldn't name me a Democrat that in the history of this country lied about an election, and then we had an insurrection. You couldn't name me an elected.
I think we had a. I mean, listen. Have you seen? So right before the election, right before 2024, I dropped a video, and it summarized the findings. So there's an investigative journalist, and obviously this got covered up, who had been spending years infiltrating different groups. She has video from these different groups, these Democrat groups, talking about how they were gonna do this. Democrat groups were involved in J6.
But Donald Trump had
FBI groups, FBI informants all over the place. Listen, I would love to know what really happened, J6. But there is no independent investigation because the J6 committee shredded the documents. They shredded the files. The level of corruption around J6 on all fronts is so monumental that I don't even know what to say.
If Donald Trump doesn't lie about the 2020 election and say that it was stolen and rigged, which, by the way, it wasn't, there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud to prove that. He had 60 chances.
Coming out every day.
Well, I haven't seen a shred of evidence that would suggest widespread voter fraud, but he had opportunities to present in court. He didn't. If Donald Trump doesn't say the election was stolen, does January 6th happen? If he just concedes and does what every other president has done?
I think the election.
Based on what? Based on Mike Lindell? Based on Dinesh D'Souza? Based on what, Tom? How can you say that the election was stolen? Based on what?
I'll tell you what, Brian. So I've got some inside info, and I will tell you what. Let's do this. when it gets closer to 2026, the midterms, let's go back and see what's been released. Okay, there is a ton of evidence that I think is going to be coming out that's credible. This time, credible. I was asked, and I'll tell you right now, I was asked post 2020 to get on some of these cases, and in fact, there were a couple of cases that I advised people don't file them. I said,
okay, but Tom, hear me out. You're claiming that you have evidence and it's coming.
I'm claiming I don't have evidence. I have people who I trust that have said we will have legitimate evidence being revealed between now and then.
Okay, well, where have they been for the last 5 years? All of a sudden now they found something? I mean, am I supposed to believe that? Here's what I know. You had 1,500, in my opinion, very ignorant people that committed crimes that day. Half of those people committed violent crimes, which I know you're not going to defend. They beat police officers where they're on the batons, pepper sprayed them. What's that?
How about Roseanne Boyle, the lady that the cop beat to death while she was laying on the ground unconscious?
My understanding is she had a heart attack. If you're talking about the lady that was on the steps of the Capitol,
she didn't have
that's
a heart attack. That's a lie.
Okay, well, again, no officer has been found guilty or criminally charged with her death.
Think that they're going to do that? I mean, listen, the Republicans and the Democrats.
I haven't seen video of that. I haven't seen video of this woman being beaten. But hold on, let's just say you're right for argument's sake. What about all those people who beat cops? 700 people were charged and convicted for violent crimes, and Donald Trump called all those people hostages and patriots and gave them a pardon. You can't be okay with that.
No, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't believe a damn thing about the J6 story. I really don't.
Were there any officers that were beaten that day?
Were there any officers that were beaten?
Yeah.
There were no officers that were killed like Roseanne Boyle, and there were no officers that were killed.
Brian Sitnick. Okay, but hold on. We'll go one by one here because Brian Sitnick did die the following day, and the coroner did say that in the newspaper that he felt like the state of the body that Brian Sitnick was in, what happened on January 6th, had something to do with it. But even if you don't believe the coroner and what he said in an interview, there were 140 officers that were injured. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. There are dozens of officers that have traumatic brain injury. We all saw the videos of them being beaten with their own batons. Trump generalized, pardoned all those people, and called them hostages and patriots. You just talked to me, and I agree with you that you can't be throwing rocks at ICE agents. I don't condone any of that. Will you also say that you're not a hostage and a patriot if you committed violent acts on January 6th?
If they were unprovoked, but they were provoked. I mean, what about the videos of the cops?
What do you mean they were provoked?
Unprovoked?
What does that mean? What do you mean they were provoked?
What about the videos of the cops opening fire on J6ers before there was any violence?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
I don't know what you're talking about. Hold on. By your standard, if an ICE agent fires a rubber bullet at a protester, they're allowed to beat them? That's what you're saying right now. You're defending it.
If an ICE agent were to open fire with rubber bullets or anything else,
they have. They've done it in Minneapolis. There's video of it.
On a protester that wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yes, there was a priest. Yes. Where have you been? In Portland, there was a priest that was hit with rubber bullets.
You were with J6, man. Listen, both of our sides, both of us, you and I both. I look at my side, you look at your side. And the problem
I don't have a side. I'm a registered independent, and I saw what happened. I leaned to the left on social issues. I'm not on a side here. If you attacked cops during Black Lives Matter protest, it's awful. You're not a patriot. If you attacked cops on January 6th, it's awful. And I don't give a prerequisite
if you were defending yourself, that's one thing. But if you just attacked unprovoked, yeah, that'd be terrible.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was proven in a court of law, though. Tom, that was proven. All these people.
Dude, I looked at a bunch of these cases. The amount of evidence that was excluded on case after case, the amount of video evidence that was excluded. Those trials were the biggest shams I've ever seen. But I'll tell you what I would like to know is how it is that the same people at the DOJ could find hundreds and hundreds of J6ers, but they can't find the people who are committing violence in Minnesota. How is it that they could try person after person after J6, but they can't figure out who's behind?
Show me a video. Show me a video in Minneapolis where an ICE officer is being beaten with their own baton, and I will gladly tell you, yeah, that person should be arrested. But I haven't seen that happen. I'm not saying that criminal acts haven't taken place, But we literally have, Tom, we have video. You've seen the video of these Capitol police officers being beaten. It's all over the place. You can't say that, well, they were provoked. I mean, I don't even know what that means. Like, what do you mean they were provoked? They stormed the Capitol. Nobody made them go in the Capitol. They stormed the Capitol chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Some people did have weapons on them. And you're saying, you're defending it because you're saying that they were provoked? What does that mean? Like, I haven't seen any evidence to prove that they were provoked. And by the way, just because you're shot with a rubber bullet, which, by the way, I am not conceding that happened on January 6th, but even if it was, that is not an excuse to not leave the area, but go towards an officer and beat them. That's not a reason to do that. So, like, I don't understand.
So
was Alex Preddy provoked?
I
What's
wasn't
that?
at J6. Okay, I wasn't.
Neither
there.
was I.
I
wasn't there either, but I saw video.
It's based on the video, the people I've interviewed, the people who I've talked to. There were a lot of agitators in the crowd that were purportedly FBI undercover. Of course, the FBI didn't want to talk about that. I mean, it took forever to find out how many FBI undercover people were there. This whole thing, we have tons of evidence now. Millie Weaver did a great job. She infiltrated a bunch of undercover video places with a bunch of these Democrat groups that were literally talking about how you break into the Capitol, how you set this stuff up, how you do all this stuff. There's a ton of evidence. You have Nancy Pelosi. Why didn't she accept this additional security? She literally admitted. She says, and now I'm not going to take this out of context. She says it's J6 was my fault. Well, now in that context, she's talking about not taking the extra part. But at the end of the day,
why didn't Donald Trump call in the National Guard? He could have easily done that. He called in the National Guard a few months ago, just like that, with the snap of a finger. If you're the president of the United States, why did he sit on his ass for 4 hours and not do anything? Why is it that he was begged to put out a statement and a video, and it took him 4 hours to do so? The first lady, who I think is just as despicable as he is, refused to put out a tweet and stopping the violence. 4 hours, he didn't do anything. Is that not dereliction of duty? Because if that's not, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing with that. I'll be honest with you. It's just not something.
Well, I mean, he's the president of the United States, Tom. He's your president. Sadly, he's my president. For 4 hours, he does nothing. Nothing. The Capitol is being stormed. They're chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." You know why I think he didn't do anything? Because he enjoyed it.
You know what? I got to tell you, when I hear the Capitol being stormed, I hear this a lot. There's video of cops doing this and just waving people in.
Okay, so there are a few cops that did that and they testified. So you're an attorney. Let me ask you this question. If you have a Capitol police officer and 200 people, the Capitol police officer is armed. He has two choices. He either takes out his gun and starts shooting people, or he lets them in. Which choice do you think he should make? Because, by the way, there were several officers that did do that, what you're describing. They didn't say, "Hey, guys, come on in, let's have a party." No, they let them in. It was either that or take out a gun and start shooting them. I don't understand this argument. It's not a defense. And there were only a few officers that did that.
It's an absolute defense. For anybody that was there, that's an absolute defense.
So what were they supposed to do? Take out a gun and start shooting people, or let them in?
No, you just say don't go in. You just stop them.
And you don't think that would have worked? Wait, hold on.
The area that I saw was not violent when I saw that.
Hold on a second. Those officers,
those guys were. There was no violence.
Guys, don't do this. Don't go in. You really think that would have worked with those animals who stormed the Capitol?
The people that I saw in the very few violent videos that I saw were all in the same spot, and that wasn't the spot. Right? It was a different location. There were a bunch of different locations and different things that happened in the different locations. The one, from what we've been told, the heaviest violence or chaos all occurred kind of in the same spot, unless I'm mistaken, right? And I'm going to tell you right now, Brian, this is not my. Here's what I've got on J6. I've interviewed people who I liked and who I've trusted and who I think who are experts on this. You want to interview someone who's an expert on J6? Talk to Ivan Reichland. Ivan is probably knows more about this than any other guy. Ivan
is the guy who has crapped on law enforcement and Capitol police officers. He's called them cowards. Ivan is the guy who has spread complete misinformation. I don't think he has any credibility at all. And I think the people that have credibility are the people that risk their lives, the Capitol police officers that were injured, that were there that day, other than a guy who is so far on the right like Ivan, who has called some of these Capitol police officers cowards, people that have traumatic brain injury. Did you see the altercation he got into in the House chambers a few weeks ago? There's a Capitol police officer that has traumatic brain injury, and he had a heart attack. And Ivan has threatened his family. I mean, I don't know if that's where you're getting your information from, with respect, Tom, I think that's insane. I think of the Capitol police officers, and I look at the video.
The undercover video that Millie Weaver has implicating, showing, and just outright Democrat groups planning J6. I want you to watch that and tell me that you think this is on the up and up. I haven't followed every detail of what happened that day. Mm-hmm. I'm not capable of arguing every detail because I wasn't there. What I do know is Roseanne Boylan was murdered. Ashley Babbitt, I mean, literally just shot through a door.
Okay, so hold on. If your argument with Renee Good is just comply, which I hear from a lot of people on the right, Ashley Babbitt didn't comply. Why isn't the same argument applied to Ashley Babbitt?
Driving a car at an officer.
Doesn't matter. You had a mob
looking at a door, right?
Okay. No, Ashley Babbitt was not looking at a door. As she was shot in the video, Ashley Babbitt was trying to get through a window 20 feet away from politicians. She was asked multiple times to stand down, talking about he's got a gun. She had 10 seconds to retract, and she refused to do so. The mob was entering that, and that was also investigated. It took them months, by the way. The DOJ.
What threat was unarmed Ashley Babbitt against a bunch of men with guns? What threat was she?
If that is the argument, then Alex Preddy wasn't armed when he was shot. So, I mean, again, we have to be.
He was armed before he was shot, and someone yelled gun. I think that was a mistake. Now, do I agree with you that Alex Preddy probably shouldn't have been shot? Yes, I do. Probably shouldn't have. I think it rises
Ashley
to murder
Babbitt
or execution. No.
Listen,
Ashley Babbitt was unarmed, was not a threat. There was no reason she was shot.
She wasn't a threat. Why was she there? What was she trying to do if she wasn't a threat?
I don't know what she was trying to do, but there was no.
Why was she trying to?
There was no
20 feet away from all the politicians. What was she trying to do?
No eminent risk or danger to the lives.
You had dozens and dozens of people that
Ashley
had broken
Babbitt
into.
Wasn't dozens of people. There weren't dozens of people trying to.
No, I'm talking about the people that were there with her, because it's important to put context into this. There were a mob of people that were trying to break through this window wall 10 to 20 feet away from politicians. They were told to stand down. They refused to do so. Somebody said he's got a gun. She had 5 to 10 seconds to comply. She didn't, with a gun pointed at her. And sadly, because it is a tragic situation, because I think she was brainwashed. She's somebody that served this country. I don't believe her family deserved millions of dollars. I think it sets a horrible precedent moving forward. And it's a sad situation, but these people, Tom, were brainwashed.
Renee Good didn't comply, and you're okay with her being shot. If Ashley Babbitt didn't comply, you're okay with her being shot. Then please explain to me how Renee Good driving a car into somebody is something that you're going to call murder.
Sure. So even though this has not been fully investigated, if you go frame by frame and look at that footage,
I did,
and you look at as she's backing up before she even pulls forward, she is turning her wheel to the right. Number two, Officer Ross makes zero attempt to get out of the way. In fact, he stands in front of the vehicle and plants both of his feet there. You see Renee Good. Now, if Renee Good had accelerated and went straight towards the officer, I would be in full agreement with you. That is not what happened. But even if you disagree with me, Tom, the Trump administration has already made up their mind. Do you know how I know this? Besides Kristi Noem's statements? Unlike the Ashley Babbitt situation, you can disagree with the investigation, which took months. They found that he was in the right, and you can disagree with that. That's fine.
I do.
But the Trump administration has not done any ballistics. We know this for sure. They haven't interviewed any witnesses. I've spoken to 2 people that were 20 feet away from Renee Good as she was shot in the face. Nobody has interviewed her. They haven't done any ballistics. They haven't done an autopsy. Nothing. Because there hasn't been a full investigation. So even if we disagree, which clearly we do, the Trump administration has said, nothing to see here. Let's move on. At a minimum, we have to agree that that's wrong, Tom. That's wrong.
I don't think in the Renee Good one there's much to investigate, to be honest with you. I will give you. I just don't. The video was manifest. Like, listen, the guy had a reason to be concerned for his life. You cannot drive towards a cop and bump into them, even if it's a minor bump, and expect that they don't have a right to do it. Listen, a car is a deadly weapon in that capacity.
Then why is he standing in front of the car? Why is he planting his feet in front of the car?
It's not. It's not his duty to get out of the way of someone who's willing to run over him.
Is it his duty? Is it his duty to stand in front of a vehicle and stop? Is that his duty?
It's not the duty. The duty is on the driver not to drive into the cop. The duty.
Okay,
is
but
there.
aren't cops, or in this case, ICE agents supposed to be properly trained and professional? Why does he have his cell phone in one hand and then he reaches for his gun in the other and standing in front of the vehicle? That's not proper training and protocol. I wish she got out of her car.
Supposed to be properly trained and not shoot unarmed people that are of no threat.
He's not a security. He's not a security guard. He's an armed ICE agent that has been in law enforcement for over 10 years. He should know better.
Listen, in one case, you've got a deadly weapon that was being weaponized against a person. And another, you have no evidence of any weapons at all. No reason to believe there's a physical threat. No reason to believe anything. As you said, what is it, 20 feet away, 50, whatever it is? There's no suggestion of a weapon. So in one case, you're okay with shooting an unarmed person who is no evidence of a threat. In another case, there is evidence of a threat.
I disagree.
It may be unprofessional. It may be weak, but there's damn sure evidence of a threat.
I don't know how, Tom, you can characterize 40 to 50 people that were standing behind her, Ashley Babbitt, that were screaming, "Hang Mike Pence," that looked like a militia, that are trying to get at these politicians that were 10 to 15 feet away. And for you to look at me right now with a straight face and say, nothing to see here. They weren't a threat to anybody. Tom, that's insane for you to say that, in my opinion.
None of that was manifest. Like, I did not see a 40 or 50 people standing there screaming, "Hang Mike Pence."
Look at the video. Look at the video. Look at the video and look at what they were doing. I mean,
it looked to me like she was the only one really trying to get anywhere in there. I mean, she was
trying to. They were trying to break the window. They had cracked the window. They were trying to get through this window wall. And again, even if you obviously disagree with me on the Ashley Babbitt shooting, and no, I don't think her family deserved any money. I'm sad. I'm sorry for the family, but I don't think they deserve to be millionaires. But even if you disagree with me, there was a full investigation. So on one side, with the Renee Good shooting, you don't think there should be a full investigation into an officer-involved shooting where somebody's dead, regardless of what you think might have happened?
Listen, do I think that they ought to investigate any officer-involved shooting? Probably. And were there protocol issues? I'm sure there were. But again, this goes back to the other issue. Where is state law enforcement supporting federal officers? Where is that? Why is that not there?
Well, let's start with the investigation. The state has wanted a joint investigation to help look into the shooting. The Trump administration has said, nope, you are completely out of this. And if you want cooperation, then there has to be some sort of truce here. Now, my understanding is Tim Walz has opened the jails to allow them to get at violent criminals and deport them, which I have absolutely no problem with at all. But to say that local law enforcement have done nothing to try to intervene or to try to help, they have been pleading with these 2,000 plus ICE officers that were sent in there that they don't need them there. And in the end, what happened?
Did you see the Somali daycare fraud? Apparently, they need a lot of help because they ain't getting the job done.
Who was charged?
The Somali fraud?
Yeah. So ever since Nick Shirley went in there and knocked on some closed businesses, which I believe there were 10 of them, are there any new investigations? Has anybody been charged with a crime? Because you called it Somali fraud. And I'm not saying that there's no fraud going on, but what did he uncover?
Well, what he uncovered is a massive ring of, and we see this in Ohio too, by the way. Mm-hmm. My Republican governor in Ohio, no better. We have a huge population of Somali here. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that's limited to Somali. I don't know who all's doing it. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter where you're from. But we have massive, massive fraud occurring through the use of daycares. Apparently, we're finding it in for hospice. There's a lot of people doing the investigation.
So you care about massive fraud. Is that a fair characterization?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, then are you aware that Donald Trump gave pardons to over 20 people, billions of dollars of fraud? He pardoned them without having to pay back any restitution. If you care about fraud, as I believe you're claiming you do, I do as well. Yeah. Then would you be Donald Trump has pardoned people that have literally, Tom, billions of dollars in fraud without having to pay back restitution. Why are MAGA Republicans not talking about that if they care about alleged Somalian fraud? By the way, there hasn't been one new investigation, and there also hasn't been one person that has been charged with a crime.
We have the most crooked and corrupt DOJ in history. There's not going to be any accountability. This is the thing I'm maddest about with Epstein and everything else. There's no accountability. And yeah, I do have a problem, just like I had a problem with all the pardons Biden issued with his auto pen. I mean, it's absurd. These guys, these politicians get up to the White House, they get up to Congress, and they sell us out on both sides. And the problem is I'm not going to defend the Democrats or the Republicans on this. Both sides are garbage, both of them. And that you can't tell me that you got all these problems with Donald Trump, but you don't have problems with Tim Walz. You can't tell me that Donald Trump is evil, but Joe Biden wasn't. They're both garbage right now.
Why is Joe Biden evil?
I mean, should we chronicle the issues that we dealt with under Joe Biden? I mean, we can start with COVID because I've got a lot to go over.
Okay, so that's policy. That doesn't mean he's evil. I would say evil is somebody that attacks POWs, Gold Star families, who's a liable sexual abuser.
Well, yeah, we have Tina Peters still in jail. I mean, for trying to expose election fraud. I mean, she was a clerk of courts. I mean, she didn't
expose anything. When I had her on my show, she claimed she had Hunter Biden's laptop. Tina Peters is a kook. I've had her on my show. She's crazy. She's a crazy woman.
Tina Peters. I know her.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry if you're friends with her, but I had her on my show, and before she went to jail, she claimed she had Hunter Biden's laptop. I have the video to prove it. That's just crazy stuff. Listen, I don't think Joe Biden is evil. I disagree with some of the things that Joe Biden has done. I really do. Yeah. But I think Donald Trump is an evil human being with no compassion and no empathy for people. And I believe he only cares about himself. And I could give you so many different examples of why I feel that way. Joe Biden's never crapped on military members. Joe Biden is not in the Epstein files.
Joe Biden, the Afghan withdrawal?
Do you know what John Bolton said about that? Who worked in Donald Trump's administration?
John Bolton is a crook. I don't care what John Bolton said.
So why did Donald Trump have him in his administration then if he was a crook?
Because Donald Trump is apparently the worst ever at hiring staff. I mean, Pam Bondi, Susie Wiles, Mike.
I don't disagree with you there.
I mean, do you want the list?
He said he only hires the best people, but Tom, we're going to agree on that. I'm not going to argue with you there. Listen, the Afghan withdrawal. So what was it? 12 or 13 soldiers that died, which is horrible, right? It's horrible. Are you aware of how many people?
How many American assets were left behind? I mean, ask Glenn Beck how many people he was flying out of there.
Well, because they left that for the Afghan government. It's not our fault that the Afghan government left those.
Just assets in terms of weapons and military with the billions of dollars of
how military. Many?
But I'm also talking about the people who were then raped and murdered, who were helping the American military. All the people who were involved that we just let the Taliban kill.
Every life is a tragedy. Are you aware of how many soldiers died in Afghanistan in Donald Trump's first administration?
No, I couldn't give you the number.
67. Why don't people talk? Listen, every life is a tragedy. And yes, Donald Trump helped release 5,000 Taliban and then invited them to Camp David. Now, you could say what you want about John Bolton, but John Bolton said the withdrawal strategy was virtually identical. And I haven't heard anything from Donald Trump or his staff claiming otherwise. Now, it was horrible. It's terrible what happened to those innocent American soldiers. Absolutely terrible. But the fact of the matter is that Trump's withdrawal was almost virtually identical. Was it horrible? Yes. Am I defending Joe Biden? No. But I wouldn't call Joe Biden evil because of that. I've given you many reasons why I've called Donald Trump evil. And I don't agree with pardons in general, whether it be Joe Biden pardons or whether it be Donald Trump pardons. But I don't think Joe Biden is an evil human being. I really, really don't. And I believe that Trump went into Venezuela and kidnapped the president, who, by the way, I do not defend, for oil. It was for money. Over 100 innocent people died. And now he's threatening military action on Greenland.
I don't actually think it was for oil. I think it was for intel. I mean, listen, there's no question. So normally, and I'm not a pro-war guy. I don't want us getting into foreign. I really just would like us to kind of fix this mess that we have here. And by the way, don't ask me to defend Greenland. That's just, I mean, we can't manage the 50 states we have. What the hell are we thinking? But that aside.
What about the shooting of these boats? What do you make of that? With Pete Hegseth defending it, they're almost gleeful over this. I mean, isn't that a war crime?
I don't know. I don't know what intel they had. If they knew that these
They're
are
not
fentanyl
sharing
filled,
it.
well,
They're
I
not
understand
sharing
that.
any intel. It's kind of like, are police officers allowed to shoot people on a boat if they think they're smuggling drugs, like on Lake Michigan? No, of
Well, the
course
rules
not.
are
You can't
quite a
do
bit
that.
different for the military and international waters than they are for a police
I
officer in
understand.
Minnesota.
I understand what you're saying, but I just think he's ripping up parts of the Constitution, and I have a serious issue with that. I also believe everybody
But you
has the
were
right to due
okay with
process.
Joe Biden ripping up the Constitution.
How so?
The collusion to censor through Facebook, through all the different
That
social
wasn't
media.
that wasn't collusion. That was the government. And by the way, the leader of Mark Zuckerberg has talked about this openly. There wasn't
I saw.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mark
first of all,
Zuckerberg
let's just
said we should never have done this. It was horrible. The censorship was terrible. But oh, by the way, the government didn't do it.
yeah.
That was the biggest load of crap I've
they might
ever
have made a
seen.
recommend, but Facebook and Twitter are
How about
X are.
how about locking? How about the lockdowns? Right? How about
Okay, well,
trying to force people?
we'll get to that,
masks?
but
how about forcing
I'll-
people to get mRNA experimental gene therapy drugs? How about covering up the dangers of remdesivir while calling ivermectin?
Okay, but hold on. Let's just be clear.
Horse
I'll
paste.
talk to you about that, but I want to hold a prerequisite. We are both not doctors, so I just want to be very clear on that.
No,
I will
but
also
tell you
say,
that
go.
I litigated this as much as anyone on the planet.
I
did
understand,
all the
but
work on
we're
this,
both not.
and I will be happy to tell you what was BS and what wasn't.
I understand, but we're both not doctors. I had COVID and I almost died. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and I'm very grateful for the doctors that saved my life. Going back to X,
I'm grateful that you were saved, for the record.
Thank you. X and Facebook are private companies. If they don't want you on their platform, it's a privilege. They have the right to say, get lost. What the Biden government did do is they did reach out to Mark Zuckerberg and others, and they made recommendations. They didn't make threats. They said, hey, you probably shouldn't allow this. Now, you can disagree with that.
You probably
until
shouldn't
the cows
allow
come
this, right? You probably shouldn't.
Well, I think there's a lot of things on social media
by
that
the
we
way,
should
the
allow.
FBI had a straight back door. I mean, we know about the FBI's back door on this. We know that the FBI had direct contacts. Basically, the FBI was telling them who to censor, and they were just following it. Listen, this is censorship. This was absolute censorship. And I talked about this at the time, and I support, and I have never wavered on censorship anywhere. What happened during COVID was outright censorship that resulted in massive numbers of deaths because people didn't get true information, accurate information.
You know why
In
I think a
2020
lot of people, I was just going to say, Tom, and then I'll let you finish, but I think the reason why a lot of millions of people lost their lives during COVID is because too many people did not take it seriously. It was downplayed. And Donald Trump used coronavirus press conferences, and he used those press conferences as campaign rallies, talking about injecting yourself with disinfectant, downplaying how serious this virus was. There's no question that mistakes were made across the board. I also remind you that Barack Obama left Donald Trump a handbook on how to deal with a possible global pandemic, which they did not use. I will also say that Donald Trump, I give him credit for this, for Operation Warp Speed, but he never publicly talked to anybody about how he was vaccinated. Look, I've been very consistent on this. I never thought that it should have been mandated. Okay. I've been consistent. I never thought that it should have been mandated. Okay. There were a lot of mistakes that were made. There's no question about that. But Dr. Fauci is not a terrorist like people make him out to be.
He's worse.
And I disagree with you. And there's a lot of mistakes that were made. Okay. But I would rather listen to somebody with 40 or 50 years of medical experience than listen to somebody on the right on social media that has zero medical experience but thinks they know everything they need to know, and they're an infectious disease expert overnight. I just don't think these people are experts, Tom.
I was working on a master's in health science when COVID hit, and I started writing on it. That's why for my master's work, and that's why I got involved in it. And by the summer of 2021 or 2020, so right after the lockdowns, John Ioannidis, who was probably the premier epidemiologist on the planet, put out that the case fatality rate would come in at about 0.2%. That case fatality rate is in line with a very severe flu season. And the reproduction rate was never going to be anywhere near what they said. What that means in plain English is they absolutely lied about both the danger and about how contagious it is. We know this. This is objective mathematical proof. We knew this in 2020. I filed suit over it. I can tell you also that it was covered up 100%. And I can tell you that the media, I watched this. You want to know how I found out that they were lying about COVID? Because I was looking at the government statistics and I was seeing case fatality information, different things like that. And what I saw was, let's say 0.2%, right? So a bad flu season between 0.1, 0.2% ish for case fatality. Now, if you extrapolate, if you say 0.1, 0.2% out of a 8 billion people planetary, that's a lot of people, right? But we have the flu every season, and we don't lock down the planet over it. Now, here's the deal with COVID. The real problem, and I didn't find this out till much later, was when you went to the doctor with COVID, they wouldn't give you any treatment. So normally, when you're sick, if it's viral especially, they treat symptoms so that it doesn't get worse. They treat certain things. They make sure you may get antibiotics at some point to make sure it doesn't become bacterial, or if it becomes bacterial. A lot of the pneumonia was bacterial, could have been treated with antibiotics. We know all this now. I talked about it then, and I was told I was a conspiracy theorist. But now it's all come out. Now it's come true. Now it's come out that paper masks.
Well, it was very new, but Tom,
well,
I think you would agree. It was very new. It's something that we have never had to face in our lifetime. There's no question that mistakes were made.
It's over and over again. They lied about it, and it wasn't new because you mentioned Barack Obama. Well, I testified. I put my name on a declaration under penalty of perjury, verifying to the extent possible, and then handed in Congress to a hearing that that I have medical records from a soldier. I can't say who. It's got to be covered, but from a soldier who in 2015 had 5 different entries. I'll show you the documents. 5 different entries. I put my name under oath on this, or under penalty of perjury. So 5 different entries in the year 2015, separate entries. It says on the top, received Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. Why is that? I also sent Congress the paperwork and said to them, hey, we have evidence that EcoHealth Alliance's involvement, which we all know they were involved with the Wuhan lab. We know that in 2015 that they were not only involved, they actually, there's very strong evidence that COVID was on the shelf in the Wuhan lab during the year 2015. They had a vaccine. This was a bioweapons program. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not going to tell you the vaccine's a bioweapon right now. I'm not going to get into that argument. I'm going to tell you that the virus was developed using gain of function work, which is bioweapons development. The difference between bioweapons development and gain of function is literally what you're using it for. In each case, you're taking a virus and making it more deadly. This was absolutely a conspiracy. We've demonstrated, I can show you the paperwork from now until forever, and I am the expert in this. So I have schooled any doctor that I've ran across on this 10 times over, because this is evidence. It's not science. I don't need science. You don't have to worry about my interpretation of the science. I can show you the papers. So we've gone through this. We get to Biden. Biden knew damn well what was going on. He continued to force these mRNA vaccines. And guess who was suing him?
I thought he was in the bunker and he had Alzheimer's. So now you're saying he did know what was going on.
His team. I think
so. It wasn't him. It was his team that knew what was going on.
I think over the course of Biden's term, I think he deteriorated mentally. I can't prove it. I'm not going to get into a debate over Biden's mental state, although I do think by the end, there were a number of instances that indicated some very serious questions. That said, that's not relevant to the fact that the Biden team, whoever was in charge, much like Trump's in charge of Epstein, right? I don't like it. It ultimately ends with him. Same thing for Biden. I'm very consistent because I don't think either of them are doing a very good job or did a very good job. Right now, Joe Biden, as this stood, continued pushing this Operation Warp Speed BS, which was a disaster. This was a lie from the beginning. They didn't create a vaccine in 6 days. That's bull. That's bull. You can't do that. And even if you can, this was a biologic, right? A gene therapy drug as categorized by the FDA, right? So this was a recognized gene therapy drug because it was a genetic material that was injected into your arm for a therapeutic purpose, which means a gene therapy drug, right?
So you don't think the vaccine saved any lives?
I think the vaccine killed more people than I could count.
I mean, again, I would have to see substantial evidence to prove that. But here's what I can tell you. I can tell you from my own personal experience. Before any vaccines were available, I got COVID. I was in intensive care for 2 weeks. Luckily, I was given some medications that I believe saved my life, remdesivir and some other medications that helped clear up my lungs. I can tell you that when the vaccines were available, I took the vaccine multiple times and I got COVID multiple times. And every single time I got COVID, it was a minor cold and I was over it in 2 days. My parents got vaccinated. And I know a lot of people that were vaccinated. Without getting too deep into this topic, I don't know anybody that was vaccinated in my orbit that lost their life because of being vaccinated. With that being said, as you know, every vaccine has its risk. But this was a very unique situation where we had a global pandemic where we were losing at one point 3,000 to 4,000 people a day. No vaccine is foolproof. We all know that. But the guy that is in charge of this stuff now is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the guy who said that these vaccines were targeting people based on their ethnicity. I mean, he had on tape.
Do you know where that came from?
I know he read it from an article. I understand that, but he entertained it, which is absurd.
It was from one of the Pennsylvania medical societies. It was from a credible group of scientists.
I don't think anybody that would make that claim is credible. I'm sorry.
Well,
I don't think
this is a Pennsylvania, one of the medical societies out of Pennsylvania. There were a lot of scientists, and I read the article. I read the article to review it.
All I know is, Tom, in general terms, I think you'll agree with this. We lost a lot of people. A lot of innocent people lost their lives. I also think a lot of people did not take the virus seriously enough, especially older people. 2/3 of this country have comorbidities. They shouldn't have been out. And I think it was, obviously, if you were younger and you were healthy, it didn't affect you anywhere near as much as if you were unhealthy, overweight, or older. But a lot of people unnecessarily lost their lives. We can get into the details on the vaccines and what we should have done and what we should have done. But the problem is a lot of people should have listened to their own. And this, by the way, I've been very consistent on this. I say, don't listen to me. Don't listen to you. Listen to your personal doctor and physician that knows your medical history and then make a decision with them. Don't be forced into doing anything. I've been very consistent on that. And I'm sorry, taking press conferences and turning them into campaign rallies, which is exactly what Donald Trump did, was beyond the pale, absurd, and ridiculous. I do give him credit for Operation Warp Speed. I always have. But then privately,
I think that was a disaster. I think that was one of the worst things he's done in either term of his presidency. I think it rivals the Epstein files in terms of mishandling. This was absolutely, listen, Brian, you don't have to agree with me on the vaccine to recognize this. You can't develop a vaccine in 6 days, right? You can't. You can't even develop a vaccine in 6 months. And when you introduce a new type of a biologic, you're looking at 10 to 15 years of study to determine what the long-term side effects. Now, I've got a document from the FDA, right? You don't have to trust me. You can read the FDA document. It's a 2006 industry guidance document. You know what that says? It says it talks about delayed adverse events and reactions for new biologics, and it describes the biologics that it's discussing in a way where it's very clear. It defines them to include what we would now call mRNA gene therapy drugs, right? In it, do you know what it says? It says long-term delayed adverse events. One of the things that you've got to watch for, two things: autoimmune issues and cancer. Now, that whole turbo cancer thing, right? Now, mark my words. I'm going to make this prediction right now. We will, in the coming years, not yet, evidence is mounting, but in the coming years, you will find out that these vaccines are a major driver for turbo cancer. And Brian,
if that doesn't happen, will you admit that you were wrong?
Absolutely, I will. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, obviously, I hope that doesn't happen, but I will ask you this.
I pray
to a caveat. I believe you when you say that. As a caveat to what you are speaking of when it comes to masks, there is relation to that in ICE, and I haven't asked you about this.
Yeah,
but what do you make of ICE agents wearing masks? Because I think it's awful, because we need to be able to hold these people accountable if they do wrong. And if they do wrong, how can we hold them accountable if we don't know who they are?
Well, I think the whole thing's a mess. I'm going to be honest. I go kind of back and forth on it, because I do understand that these guys, I mean, we've got a whole movement trying to drive hate for these guys who are doing their job. I mean, listen, at the end of the day,
some of them are not doing their job.
I'm not saying that they're all doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that they're all perfect, But I'm saying you got a group of guys who are out there. They're walking into what's essentially enemy territory. They've got people who maybe they're going to shoot at them, maybe they're not. They've got a rough job. I mean, I think we can all agree that that's not an easy job.
If that's the case, then why aren't police officers wearing masks? They have to go through the same stuff.
Because police officers aren't being demonized all over the country.
They're not? You don't think so? I think police officers are demonized all the time. I'm not defending it.
I don't think it's as bad as what's happening with ICE right now.
How do we hold them accountable if we don't know who they are and they're hiding their identity?
Well, this is the problem, right? So this is the problem. Let's take what you're saying, and let me say, let's take an instance and say that one of these ICE guys does something that's legitimately and arguably wrong, or something that needs investigated or whatever. Mm-hmm. In theory, there should be a record of who they are, and our federal government should properly investigate that. Now, I'm not going to tell you that that's practical or real, but there should be a record. So the reason I go back and forth on this is because I think a vast majority, listen, are there bad apples in every bunch? Of course. There's no profession I'm a lawyer, for God's sakes. If I know a profession that has bad people in it, I'm a lawyer, right? Mm-hmm. So no profession's perfect. That said, are there bad apples? Yeah, but a vast majority of these guys, I think, are trying to do their job, trying to do it right, trying to do, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to say that 90% of ICE officers are just there trying to be evil. Most of them are just trying to do their job. And
no, I think there's a difference between saying that a lot of these ICE officers are trying to do evil, but saying that they're not properly trained or properly equipped for the job, which I think when you have 47 days of training, Tom, you have to agree with me on this. You need more training to be a McDonald's manager or be a school crossing guard than you do to be an ICE agent. 47 days is insane.
I got no problem with raising the amount of time that they need for training. I have no issue at all with that. At the end of the day, I would like to see, really, one of the big issues right now is we have a situation where, so maybe these guys don't have enough training. What are we going to do? Take them all off the street until we do?
No, give them more training. Give them more training.
Well, there should be ongoing training. I will give you that. There should always be ongoing training in every.
Too much power for only a month and a half of training. That's way too much power.
But at the same time, we've got to have local law enforcement supporting them in their mission. These guys shouldn't have to run traffic. I was a fireman when I was a young guy. I don't know if you know that. But so I spent a few years as a fireman when I was a young guy. I loved every second of it. When we went to a fire, one of the most important things, or a car wreck or anything else, the cops always came, right? And the cops were always crowd control, traffic control, whatever. They had to control, because people are insane. And I'm not talking about people who are protesting a fire. I'm talking about, you're at a fire and you got, people bringing their kids to see what's happening and putting them in the way. It's unsafe. I mean, you've got to have law enforcement support. Local law enforcement is trained to make sure that there's not traffic issues. If they're going to do a raid, local law enforcement should be there to handle that, right? So, I don't really, let me throw this back at you. Do you really want ICE trained where their job is to handle every aspect of law enforcement? As far as I'm concerned,
they're not trained for that, and that's not their job.
No, that's right. It's not their job. And so
but yet they're still doing it. Yet that's some of the stuff that they're still doing.
There's no support. There's no local support. If the local law enforcement, if the Minnesota mayor, St. Paul mayor, is going to say, hey, no way, we're not helping you guys, we want you guys out of here. Well, listen, they still got a job to do. If the boss says go enforce the law in Minnesota and local police are forbidden from helping them, well, they still got a job to do. It creates a bad situation. And the problem is local, and I don't care if this is Tim Walz or Mike DeWine, because I don't like Mike DeWine.
Okay, but Tom, I hear this argument a lot. Why did Barack Obama give Tom Homan a medal? Here's why. Because they weren't executing people in the streets. They weren't wearing scarves over their faces. They weren't taking away people's Fourth Amendment rights. They weren't barging down doors without warrants. And this is really important. I personally believe that and by the way, why are Border Patrol agents 1,500 miles from the border? What the F are they doing in Minneapolis? Why are they 1,500 miles from the border? Border Patrol agents should be near the border, and ICE agents, 2,000 to 3,000 of them, sending them into Minneapolis when we know that there are a ton more undocumented immigrants in Texas and in Florida. And the argument I hear from the right is, oh, well, they're working with local law enforcement. That is not entirely true because we see these ICE agents. And yes, I do believe some of them are goons. I'm not going to say the majority because I don't know that. That would be irresponsible
Can you give me that
to say.
It's probably a very small minority? Because I think that I don't believe in any profession, especially law enforcement, that a majority are. I mean, I don't think they're there to be evil.
I would like to believe. And by the way, I'll start with police officers. I am pro-police.
So am I.
And I do believe that the majority of police officers are heroes and they do a good job. And yes, there are some bad apples out there, but I'd like to think that the majority of cops are heroes.
Yeah.
I can't say that about ICE. Really? Not people. Here's why. I'm not talking about people that have been in ICE for years. Those aren't necessarily the people that I'm talking about. I'm talking about, and again, I'm not going to say the majority, but I think there's a lot of people. They want immigrants out. They want to attack brown people. They get excited. For example, after the Alex Preddy shooting, we see one officer that's clapping his hands and celebrating and jumping up and down. Am I saying that the majority of ICE agents are doing that? No. But I think a lot of these agents that are signing up for their 47 days of training to get that $50,000 bonus are goons. A lot of them I think are ill-informed. A lot of them I feel like are uneducated. They're not properly equipped, and they go along with, let's deport all the illegals. And I think they go in there with bad intentions. I'm not even going to say the majority, but I do think a good portion of them are doing this for many different reasons of why you were a firefighter, why people decided to become a police officer or even an ICE agent during the Obama days. We didn't have Dr. Phil there with a microphone being gleeful. We didn't have people celebrating, get all those illegals out of the country, okay? Some of these families are being tortured, okay? And by the way, they're breaking the law, Tom, and you know this because you're an attorney. If you're coming from Mexico and you're seeking asylum and you filed the proper paperwork, it is illegal for ICE agents to deport you, yet they are waiting outside of courtrooms. That wasn't happening under Obama. It wasn't taking place, and that's why Tom Homan got a medal, because he did do good work back then. And Obama deported a lot of people, but they treated human beings like human beings, not like animals. Jumping on top of grandmothers coming out of courtrooms when they've legally applied, when they're seeking asylum, Tom, that's illegal. They're breaking the law. You know that. You're an attorney. They're breaking the law.
I don't know about that. I literally have not heard anything about that. I don't know anything about that.
You haven't seen any videos of people being tackled outside of courtrooms?
I've seen people coming out of courtrooms, but I mean, listen, if you're here illegally and you just broke a law or have been charged with breaking a law, I don't really have a big issue with them saying, hey, maybe
Tom,
if you're seeking a deport.
But Tom, if you're seeking asylum from specific countries and you've filled out the proper paperwork, you look up the law, it's illegal for us to deport you if you're going about it the right way. And they've deported some of these people.
If you're going about it the right way, I don't know.
What about sending people to El Salvador prisons, people that have never been convicted of a violent crime in their life? A hairdresser, a gay hairdresser who, yes, didn't have the proper paperwork, but he went through a legal port of entry and he was trying to seek asylum. And we haven't heard from this guy. He was sent to an El Salvador prison. Tom, they weren't doing that in the Obama days. They're doing it today.
I got to tell you, here's the problem with this argument. So I am a humanitarian, right? I do want to protect all life. The problem with this argument is that you're trying to convince me that I should be really fired up because someone who broke the law and came here illegally is being deported. Now, I don't know.
That's not what I said.
They broke the law and came here illegally. You're talking now. You're going to talk to me about a refugee, a legitimate refugee. If you filed that and if you've got that paperwork, then you do have rights, and there's things that can happen, right? There's a process there. And
right, but they're not abiding by that process. The Trump administration is not doing that. And Kristi Noem was asked about this, and she played dumb. It's happening all over the country. And listen, if you're an undocumented immigrant. Let me ask you a question. If you're an undocumented immigrant, you've lived in this country for 20 or 30 years, the only crime you've ever committed in your life is you're not in this country legal. You have family. You have kids here.
Yeah.
Are you okay with ICE agents storming into your home and deporting you to an El Salvador prison, for example? Is that the country that we want to live in?
Well, let me make it even worse. What about the kid who was brought here when they were 4 and has never known another country, right? So there's a lot to be talked about here. But the problem
there are extenuating circumstances. We agree, right?
There has to be some extenuating circumstances. But
all right, so let's go. Go ahead.
Here's the problem. we can disagree on the law right now. Okay. And or we can agree. I think there's parts of the law you and I would agree on, parts we would disagree on, right? At the end of the day, the law is the law. If we're pissed because the law is being enforced, then we should probably be looking at Congress and saying, why aren't you changing it? We should probably be looking at these people and saying, why aren't you changing the law? The law.
What does the law say about what does our Constitution and the law say about due process?
If you're a citizen, then you get it.
No, it doesn't say that. It says any person. It doesn't say any citizen has the right to due process. You know that. So if you want to go by the law and you want to go by our Constitution, then why would you be okay with people not getting due process, even if they're in this country illegally? In our Constitution, it says any person. Our forefathers put that in there for a reason. They could have said any citizen. It says any person. They're not giving these people the right to due process, and I have a serious problem with that.
So let me be a lawyer for a minute.
Okay.
They said any person. Presumably the people in this country are here illegally. Or here legally, right? They are presumably the people in this country are here legally. So if we have millions and millions of people here illegally, what does that mean? And that is open for interpretation to an extent. Now, the courts have made a mess of this. We've made a mess of this. The whole thing is made messy. This is why there should be very clear guidance. And this is why we should be passing legislation. You know who you and I should be mad at right now? Congress, both parties, because they can't do a damn thing. Our Congress. All right,
hear me out, Tom. I'm going to disagree with you respectfully. Okay. Hear me out on this. I hear what you're saying. Here's why I have more of a frustration with people on the right. Because everybody I hear on the right say, we want people in this country legally. We want people to come to this country, just do it the right way. Okay, if that's the case, then why are you not working with Democrats to make it easier for people to come in this country legally? In some cases, it takes 10 to 15 years for people to come to this country legally. And we hear lies from the right. Oh, Democrats just want these people in here so they can vote. It is illegal to vote if you're an undocumented immigrant. But let me go back to what I just said. Why won't Republicans work with Democrats? Again, there were like 30 or 40 people that were proven that were undocumented immigrants that voted in the last election. Have you looked at the voter
rolls? I mean, I'm working with a client right now who looks at the voter rolls.
How many people have been proven undocumented? Because I know the numbers. This was argued on CNN the other day, and the argument put forth by this woman on the right who was insane. There was something like under 100 people in the last 10 years have been proven to have voted undocumented. The numbers are so low, it's not even worth the conversation.
There's a reason that that number is so low, and it's not because there hasn't been fraudulent votes thrown into play.
Listen, then it has to be proven.
Well, yeah, but what is the process for proving it? How are we going to prove this, right? So if the lawyers
somebody has to have a social security number, and if you're voting, they check that social security number,
right? But
and if
it
lines up, then
security number through. I mean, listen, you can get a driver's license, you can get fake ID, you can get fake all this stuff. They don't even check ID in some of these places. Give you a driver's license. That was presumably the reason for the Real ID Act, right?
Right, but you have to give your name, social security number. You have to be on the voter roll. But going back to what I said, will you agree with me? Republicans are not doing enough to make it easier to work with Democrats for people to come into this country legally. 10 to 15 years is absurd. Nobody should have to wait that long if you're a good person.
Years. So the legitimate and legal process for coming into this country is broken beyond words. I got a client who I just took on. He's a legal immigrant, very proud. He went through the whole process, and it sucked. I mean, it's horrible. And I'll tell you that the immigration process is garbage. But here's the problem. Democrats and Republicans, neither side will work in good faith on this. Neither side. Democrats, they're just pushing. They've been allowing illegals to come in. The wide open borders under Biden were inexcusable. We wouldn't be having the problems we're having right now if Biden had enforced the border.
Okay, well, I'm not going to defend Biden on the border, but I will say this: this has been an issue for decades and decades and decades. I remember the George W. Bush days; he was a complete failure. Obama has deported more people than Trump has.
Obama deported way more than Trump did. Way more.
So would you give him credit for that?
Well, yeah. Listen. And Obama to me was horrible, and that's a whole nother story. But I will give you that Obama did. I mean, he deported a lot more than Trump, but there weren't riots about it. Why is that?
I'll tell you. I told you. I gave you a number of reasons why. Number one, they didn't have Dr. Phil there with a microphone, gleeful over this. Number two, they weren't
chicken and the egg, Brian. Listen,
No, it's not. Tackling grandmothers outside of courtrooms and breaking the law when they're seeking asylum, that is not chicken and eggs. That is breaking the law and not giving people the right.
Trump came in and said, I'm going to deport, the left decided it. Listen, Trump could have said that I'm going to give grandmas Christmas presents and the left would have protested. There are a lot of people who, it doesn't matter what Trump does, they despise the man on a very personal and profound level. I mean, listen, Trump derangement syndrome, whether it's, and listen,
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. And my retort is, I disagree with that. And I think people that use the term Trump derangement syndrome suffer from Trump fellatio syndrome. I don't like that term. I don't like it when people say that.
I don't have Trump fellatio syndrome.
All right. Well, let me ask you a question. And be honest with me.
Real. I'll give you that both of them are real.
All right. Be honest with me, Tom, because we're having a good civil conversation and I won't be offended by this. Do you think I have Trump derangement syndrome?
I think you're reasonable. I think I can talk to you.
Don't be nice, Tom. Don't be nice.
No, I'm not. Hey, listen, I've talked to people who, if you bring up Trump's name, they just lose their crap. We're having a civil conversation. We disagree, but we're having a civil conversation. And the reason that I like your show and what you do is, listen, we can have this. And we've actually both given each other some back and forth on some things. I can respect that. This is what we should be doing.
I've done Tim Pool just like you. I know you do the Tim Pool show. I've done Tim Pool. I was on OAN a couple times last month. I did the Alex Stein show. I did Pierce Morgan. I was debating Benny Johnson. So I agree with you. I think we need to do more of this.
We do.
But here's where I disagree with you. I don't think people are deranged when they despise a man who's cheated on every woman he's ever been with, a man who's in the Epstein files over 3,000 times, a 24-count felon who was found liable for sexual abuse, who's attacked POWs and Gold Star families. I don't think that's deranged to say, you know what, he's a really awful guy. I'm sure maybe he's done some good things in his life, but I despise the man. And I reject the notion that people are deranged or they have some sort of syndrome. I actually, to the contrary of that, would say that there are people that suffer. The reason why I say Trump fellatio, so there are like the Pam Bondis of the world, like the Pam Bondis there are people out there. I really believe this, Tom, and I'm not saying you're one of these people, but I believe Donald Trump could be seen abusing a child on video, and they would still support him. To me, those are the deranged people, and that's why we call it a cult. I can sit here and I can criticize Democrats. I can criticize Joe Biden. To me, while I don't believe he's evil, I think his reputation was tarnished because he only stepped down 3 months before and he didn't give Kamala Harris enough time to campaign. I'm not saying Joe Biden was perfect. And yes, his health was deteriorating. But again, you got a guy in office now who thinks you need ID to buy bread. And he says he defeated Barack Obama and he talks about windmills. So again, we can go tit for tat on that. But I don't think you're deranged if you call out what we see in front of us. Tom, you agree with me. He's protecting pedophiles. You know that's true. He is. If he's not one of them, he's certainly protecting them. You and I both know that.
Tell me. Is 100%. I would really love to know. I would love the president to tell me why they're doing what they're doing. But I will give you this. There are cultists, 100%. And I don't like it, right? So I'm an issue guy. I'm an evidence guy. I don't really care where it goes. I'm right now pretty grumpy with him. I hope Trump comes back to straight up MAGA. And if he does, you'll be mad at me because I'll be liking him again. And,
you like JD Vance?
Sometimes not. I got ups and downs with him too.
You think JD Vance is going to be the front runner for the Republican Party in 2028?
I do right now. I do. And there's a lot of reasons, but I'll tell you, you want to know the number one reason? And it's an issue you and I aren't talking about because it's not big headlines and it's not something that people are into. But, the single biggest thing that nobody's talking about that's happening while all this nonsense is going on is the development of AI and the movement of tech. And what's going to happen over the next 5 years with tech is absolutely terrifying. We're going to have a world remade. Now, I pray that it goes the right way, that it is good for us all. But
so this is an area that I'm not familiar with. I'll be honest with you, but I have to ask you a question about JD Vance.
Yeah.
Do you like supporting politicians that are phony, that are two-faced? There's a lot of them out there. Don't get me wrong.
If I didn't, I wouldn't support any of them.
Okay. Would you vote for JD Vance if he ran against Gavin Newsom?
I wouldn't vote for Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is literally the worst ever.
Okay, well, we can talk about that, but J.D. Vance called Donald Trump once the next American Adolf Hitler. He now works for him. Would you call that two-faced and phony?
No, not necessarily, and I'll tell you why. Um, I've had a lot of time. So if you'd asked me a year ago, and you did, I mean, I don't remember what it was last time. I 100% love all behind Trump. I still am trying to support him, but I told you it's getting harder. And this Epstein stuff. So people's views evolve, right? I'm not going to hold someone to a view that they had a year or two ago. I mean, if you're a smart person, if you're an educated person, if you're a learning person, you keep learning and you keep an open mind and you keep developing so you grow. So I don't think that's the issue. The issue and the big concern I have, and I understand this isn't your area right now, but I will, if you're interested, I'll say, we can talk a little bit about it off air.
Sure.
And it's something I think you should look into because I think this is something that left and right can come together on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, I'm not extremely familiar with this, but what I do know for sure, and I'm not saying that Gavin Newsom is perfect, but J.D. Vance is the guy that lied about the cats and the dogs. This J.D. Vance is the guy who once called Donald Trump the next.
He wasn't lying. I know people down there.
Well, you could say you know people. But Tom, you could say you know people, but that's not evidence that they were eating the cats and the dogs. In fact, we know that this was a woman who actually is one.
Or someone that's a friend of yours, or someone that you know personally,
well,
that has nothing. No benefit to getting out of this. I mean, listen, on some.
No, I disagree with you. I think a lot of people have a benefit because they want to attack brown people. There was no evidence by the local police department,
Brian, do you really
by the
think
sheriff.
That racism's that common?
Yeah, I do. When it comes to this, I absolutely do.
Well, then why is it that I played on my show a video of a black guy talking about a white liberal woman calling people the N-word the other day?
Which is also horrible. Which is terrible.
Awful. Why is it? Listen, why is it that you just got done with DEI, which says I should look at the color of your skin first? I mean, listen, I am 100% against anything even close to racism. So content of character, I don't care what you look like. I don't care what you do. You do yours, I'll do me. We're all good. So we just had an administration that was pushing DEI, which literally teaches that we have to consider your race before, or gender, or whatever it is, first.
So you want people that are, you want the best people and the people that are qualified for the positions. Is that what you're saying, Tom?
100% regardless.
Okay,
of race,
then how do you
religion.
how do you defend Kash Patel? How do you defend Kristi Noem? How do you defend Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? How do you defend a wife of a guy who ran the WWF? Aren't those DE white hires? How do you defend those hires?
So listen, Kash isn't white, but I'm
just in general.
Listen,
are those Bobby. Qualified?
I will defend Bobby because I think now he isn't doing everything I love, but Bobby's doing a pretty good job, and I think Bobby's a brilliant guy.
What has he done?
Oh, are you kidding me? The food pyramid was a disaster.
What has he done? What has he implemented? What has he implemented and put into law to make us healthier? What has he done in a year?
Well, I mean,
give me a policy. Give me something he's done.
Really? Listen, he's the removal of a lot of the additives, the work he's done on the additives and the food supply.
What did he remove? I'm unaware. The reason why I'm asking this, Tom, is because to my knowledge, he hasn't passed anything. He keeps talking about it.
Pass anything. Remember, he's the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
He suggests policy to Donald Trump and his administration. They literally haven't done anything. They haven't taken soda off the shelves or some of these other things that he's talking. Listen, all I'm saying is they're
making good progress on that. So listen, here's the thing. I can respect this. So listen, I'll give you. You aren't going to get me to defend Cash's work lately, and that's sad to me because Cash.
What about Pam Bondi?
Oh, she's worse.
How about Pam Bondi?
Pam Bondi should literally be fired immediately. Or
these are some of the highest positions in the Trump administration. A guy that you say you still support, which I believe you. These are some of the highest positions in his administration, and they are utter failures. They are pedophile protectors, and they literally had no real credentials to be in that position in the first place. Look at the Secretary of Education. She's the wife of a guy who ran a wrestling WW. What are her qualifications for being in that position? So listen, I'm with you in a sense that I want the most qualified person for the job.
Every position, period.
Okay, and that's fine. Okay, but you can't tell me that the Trump administration is a very diverse administration because it's not.
But as a policy, if you tell me that the first thing I should look at is your race, I'm telling you you're a racist.
What policy is that?
That was. Are you kidding me? All the requirements under
That wasn't
DEI,
the number
the
one
diversity.
thing that they look for. It wasn't the number one thing. It was a factor. Hey, we want to give minorities an opportunity, but that wasn't the
So
number
we want
one
to look
thing.
at your race. We want to look at your gender. We want to look at whether you're a minority, whether you're this, whether you're that. I mean, does it, whether you're gay or not, does that have any impact on whether you're able to perform in a job?
No, but which would you say?
Factor?
Would you say that gay people?
I don't care about Donald Trump's bad cabinet hires. I'm talking about DEI as a racist and sexist policy.
Right, but you're talking about qualified people for the job, and I'm bringing up Donald Trump because, as we agree, there's a plethora
you and
of people.
I agree that Donald Trump has hired a bunch of. I mean, he hired Bill Barr and John Bolton, as you mentioned. He hired James Comey, and I mean, there were a lot of people that I think really, were horrible. So I'm not going to defend Trump's.
Would you say that there are groups of people in society that are discriminated against on a more regular basis than somebody that looks like you or me?
I think that in my experience, that has diminished even since I was a kid. I can't tell you as an attorney, I could not name one attorney I've ever met or judge, even judges I don't like and attorneys I don't like. I have never met one that has ever shown a single sign of racism or sexism. Now we will argue, and you can argue whether this is sexism, but I don't think it is. Should a woman have the same opportunity to do a job like fireman as a man? I was a fireman, right? So
there are physical, but hold on.
There are physical
to be fair,
differences, but
there are physical jobs where some, not all, but some women may not be, and men as well, that might not be. So I understand, but when we're talking about office jobs, or we're talking about the fact that as a whole, black people are not paid the same as white people in society. That's a fact. You could look that up. And black women are some of the most educated women in society. You could also look that up. We have a problem. Now, I agree with you, Tom, but that's my point. Tom, I agree with you, but they're not. That's where it comes to discrimination. Now, listen, Tom, I've never been pulled over because of the color of my skin. I've never been followed in an electronics store because of the color of my skin, but some of my friends have because they're black. And all I'm simply saying is this. I'm not saying we should just put people in positions that are totally unqualified just because of the color of their skin. No, I think that's wrong. But I do believe in some instances, if you're a minority and you have the same qualifications as somebody who's white, then give it to the minority. I don't have a problem with that. Do you?
I do. I think that it should. Listen, if we allow racism, if we allow it at all, then we allow it. Right. And we allow it. It's something that we just need to eliminate. You should not. The goal of a colorblind society is.
Then shouldn't it start at the top, Tom? Then, Tom, shouldn't it start at the top?
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump's hiring. OK, I'm not.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I've moved on from that. Go back to your shithole countries. He said that about 4 women of color. He said he didn't want. He said, "See, I don't think that's funny, Tom."
Well, I don't know what you said. Shithole countries.
Ocasio-Cortez. Rashida Tlaib, the squad members, he told them, go back to your okay, you cannot like somebody, that's fine. But to tell them to go back to their country when they were born, Ocasio-Cortez was born in the United States. And he says, go back to your shithole countries.
Tlaib was certainly not. She married her brother to come here.
I understand that. But even if that is true, even if that's true, go back to your shithole countries. How about the Parkland Five? Is it just a coincidence that they're all minorities?
I don't know about that.
I mean, if you want to talk about racism, let's start at the top. I don't want black people counting my money in my casinos. I want Jews counting my money. He said that. And I think I agree with you. I think racism is terrible. It shouldn't happen. But Fred Trump was arrested at a Klan rally. I mean, if we're going to talk about racism, it starts at the top and lowering the temperature.
The Democrat Party was the party of the Klan, and the Democrat Party was the one that fought against the Civil War.
Okay, so let's talk about right now. Who do you think the Proud Boys are voting for? Who do you think the Klan are voting for? Who do you think David Duke is voting for? Did they vote for Kamala Harris or did they vote for Donald Trump?
I got to be honest with you. I don't know who David Duke is voting for, but I really
David Duke has thrown out his support constantly for Donald Trump. The Proud Boys are all in support. A hate group for Donald Trump. The Oath Keepers are all in support.
How are the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers a hate group? I mean,
Well, first of all, the Southern Poverty Law Center, number one.
The Southern Poverty Law Center is the most corrupt institution on the planet.
So you think the Proud Boys are a peaceful group of people? You don't think they're a hate group?
What is the Oath Keepers? I don't know what the Proud Boys creed is, but Oath Keepers, keep your oath to the Constitution, that whole thing. What's wrong with that?
Well, first of all, if that was all they did, I would certainly have no problem with that. You have told me to look into AI. I want you to look into the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, and Donald Trump's telling the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. I've interviewed Enrique Tarrio a number of times. There's a reason why they've been labeled a hate group. They are anti-minority, they are anti-Jew, and they are a white supremacist organization. Period.
I got a friend of mine who is he's actually an immigrant. He's from Mexico, and he's a Proud Boy. And he's the only person that I actually personally know. Now I've talked to some of the guys, and I've interviewed some of the guys, and they've all been very, very, very polite and very decent to me. I've never seen any indication of hate from any of them. But the one guy that I actually know in my life personally, who was a Proud Boy, is literally a Mexican immigrant, and it was a Mexican immigrant. It wasn't like he was just some Spanish, and it wasn't. And he's first generation. I mean, he's he's brand. So I mean, that's kind of I don't know. When we look at things as media, and I'll say this, I'll give the left this credit too, right? Every group on the left, every group on the right, we have a tendency to demonize as entirely evil, entirely this, entirely that. And I think that a majority of people now you got certain groups like the Klan, like the Westboro Baptist Church, some groups that are legitimate, straight up Nazi garbage that just they belong at the bottom of the ocean.
But Tom, if you met Nick Fuentes and he was nice to you, would you praise him? If he shook your hand and he was very polite, would you say, well, I was wrong about him. He's a really nice guy, even though he hates Jews and he's a neo-Nazi and he's a Holocaust denier? Just because somebody's nice to you doesn't mean that they're not hateful people, right?
No, but I've talked to these guys. What are you guys about? What is this for? And the conversation off record, when it's not media, not anything like that, has never been anything about hateful or anything like this or the other. Nick Fuentes, I don't know, and I don't really pay a lot of attention to. I know he's a big name, but I got to be honest, what he says or what he does, I mean, I know he's something with Groiper or something, but I've never really paid attention to him. So I don't know.
Well, I will say this, Tom, that, people would talk about the left and them having an anti-Semitism problem. I would say now it's becoming a problem on the alt-right when you do have these Groipers out there and they're becoming more popular, the Myron Gaines of the world.
What is the Groiper thing? I mean, you have to educate me on it. I really don't know.
Well, these are basically, many of them are Holocaust deniers. They are Jew haters. They are racists. They say horrible things about people of the Jewish faith. And for whatever reason, Jack Posobiec allows some of these people at AmFest. I was at AmFest in Phoenix. These people were all over the place, and they won't denounce these people. And I find that to be a problem. Look at Tucker Carlson. Look. I don't have a problem with Nick Fuentes going on the Tucker Carlson show. Heck, I would interview Nick Fuentes. What I have a problem with is not, going at it with him and disagreeing and giving, not puffer questions. And I thought it was a joke. And Tucker Carlson's the guy that's speaking. Listen, I don't give any credibility to Ben Shapiro either, but he does have a point. If you're going to give this guy a platform, then contest the things he says. Tucker Carlson did not do that. Tucker's one of the biggest names on the right, whether you like him or not.
Well, I do like Tucker. I think Tucker's, I mean, he does a lot of work. And I know that there's I don't know if you're on the right, or if you're on the left, it doesn't really matter. If you're a media guy, you might as well just get ready to take hits because that's what happens. So, I don't have a problem. 90% of it.
I don't have a problem with taking hits, but when you blame Israel for what's his name, Charlie Kirk's death, I don't defend the Israeli government. I'm not a big fan of the Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu, but Israel had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk's death. This is nonsense.
That's interesting. So my mentor was a Nuremberg prosecutor. So obviously, the Holocaust is a pretty big thing for me. And I had the great honor during COVID of I was actually invited and argued at a rabbinical court. That rabbinical court, by the way, just so that you know, did rule that pregnant women and children and there's a number of others should not have the COVID vaccines, and that had far-reaching consequences. That was a big deal. That said, so my point is that listen, all people deserve love and respect to unless they give you a good reason not to. But I agree with you. It's interesting that you said I support the Jewish people. I support the nation of Israel, but I do not in any way, shape, or form like Benjamin Netanyahu
Neither do I. You're not going to get an argument from me there.
The guy funnels money to Qatar, to Hamas.
I don't disagree.
This guy is just special,
and that's not anti-Semitic to criticize the Israeli government. I do it all the time. Last thing, Tom, because we've been doing this for a while, and I really do appreciate your time. I want to talk about Charlie Kirk for a moment. I don't like it when people on the right paint a picture of the left killed Charlie Kirk. I hear that stuff all the time. First of all, I think there's a difference between not wanting to celebrate his life, I'm one of those people, and calling out him being murdered and saying he didn't deserve that and it was a horrible thing that happened. But I hear people on the right say, oh, well, elected Democrats were celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. I did a panel on Piers Morgan with Riley Gaines, who I am not a fan of for a lot of reasons. And she said, elected Democrats are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. And I'm like, name me one elected official that did that. Now, you couldn't name me one. So I don't know how you feel about this, but the left did not kill Charlie Kirk. A guy by the name of Tyler Robinson, and he'll have his day in court, I believe is responsible for this. And they blame transgenders, just like today. There was a horrible mass shooting where 10 innocent people lost their lives in Canada. Yes, it was a transgender woman who did this. Less than 2% of all mass shootings in the last 8 years have been from transgender people. Why don't I hear the Tucker Carlsons of the world and others saying, straight white male, mass shooting? No, they don't do that. But then when a transgender does it, which is like 2 out of 100 times, which is too many, but when it happens 2 out of 100 times, they want to blame all transgenders. I don't like the picture that the right is painting, and I'll land my plane here. The left did not kill Charlie Kirk. Transgenders are not the reasons why we have so many mass shootings in this country. Can we agree on that?
Well, listen, I don't know who killed Charlie Kirk, and I don't know whether I believe the whole Tyler story. And I'll tell you why. Real simple. When I see a lie, that makes me doubt everything. The 30-06 that they claim shot him, as you can imagine, I'm a shooter because I'm one of those right-wing guys, and I've shot a 30-06 quite a bit. Mm-hmm. A 30-06 is a huge gun. Okay, so for anybody that doesn't know, a 30-06 hitting a person in the neck like that, there is no bone of steel on this planet that would stop that bullet. That bullet would sail through it. You use a 30-06 if you want to hunt a buffalo.
So let's say what you're saying. Listen, just without getting too much into detail.
Yeah.
Let's just say you're right. There are some strange occurrences. I'll give you that happened.
Some bizarre stuff with it.
But even with that being the case, when people say the left killed Charlie Kirk, I completely disagree. I can't find one elected official that is condoning violence. I can't find one elected official that was happy that Charlie Kirk was.
Vulgar statements by a lot of people on the left.
Okay, well, there's going to be people on social media that are going to say a lot of awful, crazy things. I don't care about. It's horrible, but right, I don't condone it. But there's a difference between people on social media with 8 followers that say horrid things, and when Republicans say the left,
a lot more than 8, right? There were
Well, you'd have to.
If a hero on the left was murdered in that way, I may not, like you said, I may not want to celebrate the life, but I'm also not going to have a party over the death, right? That's just wrong. And there was fundamental difference between Republicans and Democrats in office today. When Mitch McConnell froze up and he had medical issues, Joe Biden was the first guy to pick up the phone and ask him how he was doing. People on the left were wishing him well, elected officials. When Paul Pelosi was attacked by a hammer, you had Ted Cruz, Matt Gaetz, and multiple others, elected officials, that were saying it was a gay relationship and that he let him in the house, and they were making memes and jokes about it, including Don Jr. But Tom, this is where we disagree. But Tom, I don't think that's funny. You had a guy that was almost murdered. Why is the first reaction? Help me understand. Why is the first reaction to smile when Paul Pelosi? By the way, I'm not a fan of Nancy and Paul Pelosi, but why is the first reaction to smile? My reaction to that was because I investigated this a bit at the time, and I can't prove he's gay any more than I can prove Lindsey Graham's gay. But there's an awful lot of evidence out there that some of that stuff's going on.
But there was a
And I just
police
thought
report.
but you know what? There was a police report on. You know what? There's no police report on Renee Good, and there probably won't
So you're
be.
okay
There's all
with
sorts
Don.
of police bull crap out there that's not true.
But
You
so
know
you're
they do
okay
fake
with
stuff on
Don
both sides.
Don Jr., who put up a Halloween
If he'd been
costume.
murdered, I would not have been okay with. There's a
So
line.
almost murdered. You're okay to
I
make
don't
fun
think
of it
he
and
was
make jokes.
almost murdered. I don't think he was.
He was.
almost
He had to
murdered.
have brain surgery. His skull was fractured. He was bludgeoned with a hammer. So if you're almost killed and you have to have emergency
Listen,
brain
I
surgery.
feel bad for the guy. I feel bad for the guy. It's too
So
bad
why
that
is it
happened.
funny when people make? So why is it funny when elected officials can make jokes about that, but some guy with 8 followers on Twitter saying bad things about Charlie Kirk?
I can't.
You're upset at that,
I
but
can't
Don
tell
Jr.
you that I recall, and I don't because
Don
it
Jr.
wasn't
put up a
question I would have
Halloween
expected you to
costume.
ask.
Don Jr., the son of the president of the United States, put up a Halloween costume with a guy in underwear and a hammer mocking what happened to Paul Pelosi. Will you denounce that sort of stuff?
That's really tasteless. It's kind of funny.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible, right?
Yeah,
It's terrible. This is the son of the president. It's terrible.
Listen, I got to tell you something, Brian. I wish I didn't find it funny, but I kind of do. At the end of the day,
If somebody makes a joke about Charlie Kirk and they make a picture of him with a fountain, I've seen this, by the way, and I called it out because I think it's disgusting,
I thought it
of
was
water
pretty
coming out of
repulsive.
his neck, would your first reaction be to laugh at that? Of course not, Tom.
it would've
You would
been
say
pretty
that's
repulsive.
repugnant.
I'd have been pretty
Okay,
repulsive.
but why isn't that? Why does it matter whether why does it matter whether someone's a Republican or a Democrat? What happened to Charlie Kirk is horrible.
Because I think what happened to Charlie Kirk was genuine, and I don't believe anything about the story around Pelosi's husband. I just don't believe the story.
He was attacked by a hammer. What are you saying? That he
by maybe his gay lover because they got
and
in a
even
fight.
if that was,
I don't know.
by the way, Tom, even if that was
the
true,
truth, if it was
Tom,
the truth, and he said that's what happened, I'd say, well, that's
Tom,
too bad, and that's the end
Tom,
of it.
even if that was true, which, by the way, there's no evidence that has shown that is, but let's just, for argument's sake, say you're right, that his gay lover tried to kill him. Why would that be any less bad? It's horrific. He almost died.
It is horrific.
He was
But you know what? I would have felt a lot worse about it if I felt like I was being told the truth. I don't like that I was lied to about it, just like I don't like that I've been lied to about Charlie Kirk or any of these others. Listen, Charlie Kirk, this whole story with Charlie Kirk doesn't add up. But I do believe that what happened to Charlie Kirk was a pure tragedy. But I don't think there was anything disingenuous about the actual action. In that case, in the case of Pelosi's husband, I mean, I'm sorry. I just don't believe the story. I don't believe anything about it. And the guy came out okay. Listen, I'm sorry. You're right. It's too bad, and I should be better than that. I'll give you that I should be better than that. I will 100%. But at the end of the day, it's just another BS lie story that's getting made fun of. And I think it's
but I mean, it hasn't. Listen, it hasn't been. It hasn't been substantiated. I don't like Melania
I'm not
Trump.
Tell you, I can prove that he's gay any more than Lindsey Graham. But
what does it matter if he's gay? Why is that important to you?
It's not. It's not.
So why are you bringing up his sexuality? I don't understand
because
that.
The lie bothers me. Own who you are.
What lie?
Own the fact that he's pretending that he's been married to Pelosi forever and that there's some sort of.
Has he not been married to Nancy Pelosi? Is that not true?
They're a real couple? Do you
really think Melania Trump and Donald Trump are a real couple? Do you think they're a real couple? I'll tell you this.
Going on there?
Paul Pelosi and Nancy Pelosi lived in the same house. When was the last time Melania Trump slept in the same bed with Donald Trump? Is that a real marriage? Because I have evidence to prove to you it's a contractual marriage. She's not even in the same zip code. She's not even in the White House. What kind of first lady is that? Have you seen? When was the last time you think Melania? Yeah, well, you're hearing it now. Melania Trump does not live in the White House. You can fact check me on that if you would like. Is that a real marriage? When was the last time? Donald Trump even admitted they haven't slept in the same bed for over a decade. So is that a real marriage going by your own standards?
Well, listen, I mean, if it's not, it's not. I don't know. I didn't know that.
Well, I'm telling you, Donald Trump has admitted this. Melania isn't even in the White House. She's not even in the same zip code. So is that a real marriage?
I mean, by the same standards, I guess, not by my standards, but whatever.
Okay, but here's the difference. If Melania Trump was bludgeoned with a hammer, the first thing I would do would not come up with some sort of conspiracy theory with respect. The first thing I would do would say, that's horrible. It shouldn't have happened. I hope she's okay, and I hope they find the person responsible for this. If a
Yeah.
Democrat elected official went on social media and said it was a gay relationship and somebody let them in, I would say, no, there's no evidence to prove that that's wrong. We need to denounce violence, just like I denounced what
I'll
happened to
denounce
Charlie
the
Kirk.
violence. I'll give you that one. And
I think that's
I'll
important.
also give you this, Brian. I should be better. I'm not. Okay. I'm not. I should be better.
But you're capable. But you're capable of being better, because I know you're a smart guy. You're capable of that.
We're all capable.
So let's just call it all out, man. Violence. If you throw a rock at an ICE officer, it's wrong. Okay.
Agreed.
If you're an ICE officer and you physically assault somebody or gas somebody that is just recording what's happening, it's wrong. It's horrible what happened to Charlie Kirk. It's horrible what happened to Paul Pelosi. Political violence should not be accepted or joked about or laughed at in any way, shape, or form. And I don't care. I don't care whether they're gay or straight or transgender.
The gay or straight thing doesn't matter as much as just the lie.
Then why do people? Then why does your
the lie?
Then why do people in your party obsess? Why is it when a transgender is responsible for a shooting, they make it sound like they're the reason why we're having all these mass shootings? It's just not true. It's not true.
I don't think that the trans thing, I think, kind of falls into a little bit different category, because it's a delusion, right? It's a delusion. You can feel like a girl and be a boy, but at the end of the day, Brian, let me tell you how I describe trans. You can pretend to be whatever you want, but I don't have to. So if you want to live that way, you go ahead, right? But don't tell me I have to. Don't tell me I have to.
Who's telling you you have to be transgender?
Well, no, they're telling me that I have to accept the delusion. Now, I will stand out on this one. You and I are going to disagree strongly on this one, I know. The trans issue to me is delusional. It's just delusional. It's a mental illness, right? And it is. It's a diagnosable mental illness. I feel bad.
According to what? According to what?
What's still listed in the Merck manual?
I mean, I would say that gender dysphoria is something that people struggle with. But I would also say that that's up to their doctor and physicians and psychologists. And I don't want to get involved in other people's, is plastic surgery, is that a mental illness? Melania Trump has plenty of that. She's disformed her body.
I don't think that's a mental illness.
So you can do different things to your body physically. And that's not a mental illness. But if you want to, how about if you don't have surgery? What if a boy dresses like a girl and a girl dresses like a boy? Is that mental illness as well?
You have every right to do that. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have every right to do that. And I support, and I don't support any sort of medical intervention in children, which, by the way, the medical societies just came out and acknowledged that there was no evidence that there's any positive effects from that. We've known that for a long time. That was based on fraudulent science forever.
What would you say to all the people that have gender dysphoria that have taken their own lives?
I wouldn't say anything. They're dead, but I would feel bad about the fact that it happened. I would tell their family that I'm sorry about that. But that's the ultimate sign that it is a mental illness, right?
Listen,
you don't take
I don't
your
think
life
everybody,
if you don't have something wrong with you, right?
Yeah, but you see, I don't like putting entire people in one group. I'll use Trump supporters as an example of that. I don't say everybody that's
okay. There might be something delusional.
I wouldn't say everybody that supports Donald Trump is mentally ill. I don't put them all in the same category. And I wouldn't say everybody that's transgender or wants to be transgender is mentally ill. The problem I have is people getting involved in other people's lives.
I'm very libertarian on a lot of fronts, so I agree with you on that.
Well, I just don't like it when Republicans look at people who are gay and they say they're sin, and then they hide behind their Christianity or their religion and say, well, my religion tells me that.
That's a totally different issue, Brian. That's a totally different issue. The issue of faith is one that much like, so I'm Christian, but my beliefs don't control your rights are your rights. I don't have to agree with what you do. I don't have to like what you do, but I do support your right to live undisturbed the life that you want to live.
Well, Roe versus Wade was overturned because of Republicans and because of Donald Trump. I will say that.
Roe versus Wade should have been overturned. Roe versus Wade was terrible law.
You're getting involved in other people's lives and in women's bodies.
No. So Roe v. Wade was a states' rights issue, and it was always a states' rights issue. And by the way, I am a very strong pro-life person, and we can go into that if you want as well. But going back to the trans thing, the problem is that you can't change what you are. So if you start taking things that are going to create long-term medical steps that are going to create long-term medical problems to try and create something that can never be, right? You can't change your genetics. Your DNA was born male, it's born male. If it's born
you
female,
can, but you can change your estrogen and you can change your testosterone, and it does.
You can, but it doesn't change your genetics. It doesn't change the fact that you can't.
How does it affect you, though, Tom, in a negative way? Why tell other people what to do with their bodies?
Oh, I don't. They have the right to do that. If a 40-year-old dude wants to wear a dress and do this stuff, that's fine, except for one thing. I don't want to then have to pay for his long-term health care after he messes things up with his body. Okay, as long as it doesn't affect taxpayer money, if we don't have to fund it, we don't have to support it, then I absolutely support
What about
it.
helping them? If you think they all have mental illness, then why not allocate more money to help people get the health care that they need if you think they're all mentally ill? Why are they taking Medicaid away from 20 million people if you think that these people are mentally ill?
They're taking Medicaid away from the illegals that are taking it, which is
it's illegal for somebody that's undocumented, just like it's illegal for somebody undocumented.
That's not happening, Brian.
I'm not suggesting.
Going to tell me that that's not happening.
I'm not suggesting. No, I think there are some that are obviously taking advantage of the system, but of the 20 million people, the overwhelming majority of those people are not undocumented immigrants because it's illegal to be on government assistance, food stamps, welfare, maternity leave.
From what I've seen, and I can't regurgitate the studies off the top of my head or the data off the top of my head, but from what I see, there are a massive number of people who are legally on welfare of different types.
Okay, the only way they could be on.
I actually support a social safety net on some levels, but we need
the only way you can qualify for
fraud.
You have to have a social security number, and you have to be a legal citizen. Are there going to be a small percentage?
ID. You don't have to have a social security number. You have to have a legal ID.
And to be on Medicaid, ID. You do. To be on Medicaid, you don't just show up with an ID. You have to have a social security number, a place of address. I know that for a fact. So I would disagree with you there. But again, there's one party that's allocating funds, trying to help people that are mentally ill, and then there's another party that's taking away the health care.
How many funds are we going to allocate? This is my problem. This is one of my problems right now with the big.
They're taking it away. Democrats weren't asking for more. They took it away in the big and beautiful bill.
But the Democrats also didn't like Doge. Doge had found so much. I mean, how much fraud was there in the federal?
Did you get that? Did you get your $5,000 check? How did that work out?
I hope I don't ever get a $5,000 check. I don't want it.
Didn't Elon Musk promise that all of us were getting $5,000? He
you mean before Susie Wiles ran him out? Yeah.
Well, he got about 1 or 2% of the fraud that they claimed that they were going to find and that they were getting and that they were going to get. I call that a failure.
I call it a failure because it was blocked by the Democrats and by the Republicans. It was blocked by everybody.
Republicans are in charge of the House and the Senate. What do you mean?
Do you seriously, Brian? The Republican Party is so corrupt, it's sick. It's
disgusting. Okay, but hold on. That's fine. You can say that, but you're blaming Democrats. The Republicans are in charge of every part of government, and you're blaming Democrats for why this didn't work? You can't do that.
I'm blaming both parties. I'm blaming
but you just blame the Democrats. The Republicans, the last I checked, Donald Trump's the president. You have the House and the Senate. If it didn't work, how could you blame Democrats?
Murkowski just said she's going to vote against the SAVE Act. Is that
okay? But that's a different topic. But that's a different topic. You just said that Doge didn't work, and you're blaming
the rhinos that we have a serious problem with in the Republican Party. There are some good Republicans.
Okay, but they're not Democrats. You just blame Democrats.
The Democrats plus the rhinos, and the majority of the problem stems from the Democrats.
How did the Democrats hurt Elon Musk? How did they stop Doge
cuts? How many of those issues that they found? How many of those issues that Elon Musk found were enacted into law? None. Not one.
And whose fault is that? Democrats or Republicans?
Democrats with the rhinos. The Democrats voted against it, and the rhinos voted against it.
Again, who's in charge of the House and who's in charge of the House and the Senate? I don't know why you blame Democrats.
Have a majority.
So
they can't pass legislation when you have a bunch of Republicans that are not Republicans.
Okay, so blame Republicans then. Then blame Republicans.
I blame the Republicans that are joining the Democrats.
All right. Well, all I know is I didn't get my Doge check. Okay.
I didn't either.
Elon Musk was out of there. We never got our $5,000 check. They didn't even get a sliver or find a sliver of the fraud they claimed they found. They lied about it. And then when they had to open
the fraud that they found was mind blowing. I mean, I read off lists. I'd have to look it back up, but I read off lists on my show of just absurd expenditures in various foreign countries, various places, and just absurd. I mean, there was a massive amount of fraud. And, the fraud is systemic. We know that there's fraud committed in the Social Security system. We know that, dead people, they're kept in their numbers are kept alive. People steal their numbers and they use it. We know that's happening on a large scale. We don't know how large, but we know it's happening. Mm-hmm. We know that there's fraud throughout the system. And listen, I wish that you would give me one thing. Because I've given you, I have no problem ripping the Republicans, ripping the administration when they deserve it. Mm-hmm. But you keep defending the Democrats. And here's the problem. Until guys like you and I can come together and say both parties are the problem.
When it comes to this issue,
the uniparty is the problem.
Okay, but we're talking about
spending us, and the Republicans are spending us into oblivion.
Tom, I hear you, but you're talking about wasteful spending.
Yeah.
Donald Trump got us $8.4 trillion in debt
100%.
His first go around.
I've been grumbling about the spending for a while.
Okay, and if you take a look at Democrats versus Republicans when it comes to fiscal responsibility, last I checked, the last guy that left office with a surplus was a guy by the name of Bill Clinton. So if we're going to talk about fiscal responsibility, you need to look at your own party first. And then if you want to spread around some Democrats, that's fine. But Donald Trump is the guy that put us in that debt. Donald Trump is going to be doing it again. These tariffs are an absolute joke. It is a joke.
What was the deficit between Trump and Biden? How much did Biden?
My understanding is, and I could be wrong on this, but my understanding is Joe Biden after COVID got us around $5 trillion in debt. And I'd have to go back. I could be wrong on that.
I'd have to double check it as well, but I was substantial.
Right, but,
so in 4 years.
But I know Donald Trump got us $8.4 trillion. He got us more in debt than Obama in 8 years. Okay. Bill Clinton left us with a surplus.
Real quick while we're talking here, just because.
Yeah. And when you look at George W. Bush and the war in Iraq, hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqis that died, thousands of American troops that died. You look at Donald Trump, who said he was going to be a no-war president, and then you look at what's going on and the money that is being spent.
But here's the deal, Brian. I mean, listen, I'm not naive here. Mm-hmm. The left would love to see what they're seeing right now, which is an internal war in MAGA. It's happening, right? And they're seeing that war because what's happened is that the MAGA base is splitting right now. It's splitting between the people who aren't looking at principle and the people who are willing to say, listen, we're not getting what we were told we were going to get. We wanted the swamp to be drained. Pam Bondi is literally sailing a boat through the swamp and high-fiving everybody she sees.
Yeah, but Dan Bongino said exactly what you said. And then he said he was going to get the deep state. Can you tell me what Dan Bongino accomplished when he was in there? What did he do?
Well,
did he get the deep state?
Job of covering up the Epstein files.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He also said that Jeffrey Epstein took his own life, which we all know is not true. It's these people, they claim they're going in there and they're going to get the deep state and they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and they don't end up accomplishing anything. And that's my point. According to
Grok, Biden added between 10.8 and 11 trillion, so he beat Trump. But that's not.
I'll have to take a look at that because I know Trump got us in 8.4.
Yeah, it's a Grok search, so no promises. I didn't do a whole lot of digging.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that because that's new news to me. But I do know that Trump got us around 8.2 to 8.4 trillion dollars in debt.
The amount of spending on COVID was mind blowing. Again, that's that if there's an area that I've got expertise, it's that. 15 to 30 trillion changed hands on that fraud around the world. So, I mean, it's not a surprise. But
yep.
I will tell you. So, listen, you're going to have to fight real hard to get me to defend anything about Dan Bongino. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, Bongino to me was a guy who went in there, and I was optimistic about Bongino. I really was. Mm-hmm, and I was dead wrong about this, just like I was wrong about, I'm very sad to say I was wrong about Cash. I was very excited about Cash and Bongino getting in there. I figured, okay, we're going to clean house. We're going to actually get rid of some of these corrupt bureaucrats. We're going to see some things happen. They get in there, and it's been lie after lie after lie and excuse. And then I don't know if you heard this, but we were told, I was told, and a couple other people I know were told, that, Bongino and this crowd were put out. That they were working with Wiles and Bondi to kind of attack conservatives that were questioning them. Well, I got news for you. I don't give a damn who questions me. I'm going to keep.
Donald Trump does that. But Donald Trump does that with every single person that ever questions him at all. I believe there are a lot of Republicans that are very scared of Donald Trump. But in review here, you agree with me that Donald Trump has made some absolute awful hires. We go back to his first administration and we go to where we're at right now. We agree on that. You also agree with me that this is a massive cover-up when it comes to the Epstein files. At a minimum, even though I disagree with you and I think that, well, it's not that we disagree. You're saying I'm reasonable in questioning whether Donald Trump has committed any wrongdoing crimes, but
let me
we agree.
Let me clarify that, because I do think you're reasonable, but I don't think it would be. The reason it's reasonable is because of the mishandling. Listen, you got a police report in 2006, where Trump, and that was a very credible document, right? There's a very credible document because there's an interview with a police officer where Trump was shown, to have called the police on this. I don't think Trump did anything there. The reason I say that it's reasonable for you to ask is, listen, I know you like to say you're not Democrat, but you lean left, whatever.
On social issues, 100%.
Whatever you want to call yourself, right? Guys like you've been given all the ammo you need to make those arguments because they keep lying. When you keep lying about something,
Tom, I'm going to give you some evidence. Ghislaine Maxwell. Todd Blanche goes over to the former prison she was in.
Yeah.
After her interview with him, and by the way, she was gladly answering all of his questions, apparently exonerating Donald Trump. 2 days later, she's sent to a Club Med facility.
Yeah.
And I keep asking MAGA Republicans, why would they treat her like this? And the argument I get is, oh, well, she's going to give up names. The other day, she's with her attorney and she pleads the fifth and she says she's not answering any questions. Her attorney says, unless she's given a pardon. Did Trump and his administration send her back to that prison? No. She's given a puppy. She's given preferential treatment. It's a low minimum security prison. Why would they do that? Why would they treat her like that? This is one of the biggest sex criminals of our generation.
That's
why
a real good question. Well, let me make it worse for you, Brian, because I'll tell you what I'm pissed about. She's over there with a puppy in a posh prison that's a lot more like a resort. Meanwhile, Tina Peters is in solitary for fighting for the president's election issue.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't agree that Tina Peters should be in solitary confinement. Listen, I talk with George Santos on a regular basis. And I thought that what he did was awful and stupid. He stole money from people, basically, defrauded people. But I don't believe he deserved to get the sentence that he got either. So we could agree that maybe, even though we disagree on I think Tina Peters is a little crazy. But at the same time, when we talk about a sex trafficker, I think we'll agree on this. Ghislaine Maxwell is a monster. God knows all the terrible things she did and she was involved with. And the guy who you voted for has put her, to his directive, a minimum security prison. That has to bother you, the way that they have treated her. If Joe Biden did that, you would stop talking about it.
Oh, you're right. I mean, I think it's appalling that she's there. But I mean, I'm not going to.
Why? So the answer is why?
I'm not going to pin that on Trump. Todd Blanche is garbage to me, right? Todd Blanche is as bad as Pam Bondi or worse to me. So listen,
But Tom, come on. If Donald Trump said today to Todd Blanche, get her out of that facility, send her back, you know that they would do it in a heartbeat at Donald Trump's directive. So I do blame Donald Trump. He is the boss. He is the boss. And by the way,
this is why I'm agreeing with you on certain things. Because
but Tom, they've been asked, will Donald Trump take it off the table, a possible pardon? They won't even say yes. She's a sex pedophile trafficker. And they won't answer.
Again, you and I agree. This is the worst handled mess I've ever seen. I've literally, I got to be honest with you, Brian. If you asked me to name a political mess that was more mishandled, I couldn't come up with one. I don't even think Watergate was this badly handled. But if the presidency was tomorrow
versus Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, you would still vote for Donald Trump.
With
what you know right now.
There is nothing that could get me to vote for Kamala Harris. Nothing.
Even if you're protecting people who are child sex traffickers and predators who molested children.
Any better? Listen,
you think that? Hold on.
Before Donald Trump did it, so did Joe Biden.
Hold on a second. You're saying that Kamala Harris would have given Ghislaine Maxwell preferential treatment? You're saying that Kamala Harris would have done that?
Was vice president for 4 years and didn't do anything.
The
about
vice
Epstein
president
then.
isn't a policymaker. The vice president is a policymaker.
She
You're
was
saying
certainly
that
not speaking out about it, was she? Why did I think she
right,
would
but
do any different?
did Joe Biden give sex traffickers preferential treatment?
Joe Biden had his daughter had kids rubbing leg hair and showered with his daughter. I think the guy was nuts. I don't like. I listen. Yeah, I don't think any of these people are doing the right thing, man. I don't think any of them are. The difference.
Joe Biden is not in the Epstein files. Joe Biden is not in the Epstein files.
How do you know?
Because they've already been 3 million files that have been released, and his name isn't mentioned once.
There's
Donald Trump, the guy who
3.5 million more.
Okay,
and who knows what's in that?
Right, but to this day, there's no evidence that Joe Biden's in the files. We know that Donald Trump's name's already in there 3,000 times. As far as the diary, his own daughter never said that she wrote that in the diary. And even if she did, what she wrote in the diary was borderline inappropriate. Borderline inappropriate. If that's the term you want to, and the hill you want to die on, because his daughter once said that he did something with her that was, quote, borderline inappropriate, then maybe we can go down the list of all the inappropriate things that Donald Trump did, sexualizing his own daughter.
Right? Does that make it right?
It depends how old she was. How old was she when she was showering with her father? Do you remember what it said?
No, I don't.
Don't you think that's kind of important?
It doesn't matter.
About 2 or 3 years old. I actually think it does. I think you don't think it matters if you're 2 years old?
She was older than 2 or 3, wasn't she?
Okay, well, go back and look at it. I think there is a big difference there. Donald Trump's the guy
right.
who
If she was a baby, that's not, that's one thing.
Well, again, Joe Biden's not in the Epstein files. Joe Biden's not a 34 count
that we
felon.
know of.
He's not that. Again, he's not a liable sexual abuser. Donald Trump is. Last I checked, Joe Biden didn't brag about grabbing women by the genitals. And he doesn't have 25 women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault. So to me, the two are non-comparable. But going back to Kamala, what is so bad about Kamala that today you would still vote for a guy, self-admitted, who is at a minimum protecting child rapists? What is something that Kamala Harris has done that you think is worse than that today you would still vote for Donald Trump?
She did the same thing, man.
How?
You think the Epstein files are new?
I didn't say they were new.
Right. So they existed. They existed under Biden. They existed under Trump 1. They existed under Obama. I've got a problem with all of these guys having done this. And if you think for a second that I don't believe for 1 second that Kamala would handle this one bit differently than Trump. I think that the amount of leverage and pressure that they have to be pushing this stuff this way. I mean, think about this, Brian. I'm not going to justify what Trump's doing. I don't like it, but I am going to say, think about, the political beating that this administration is taking over this issue. Think about there must be something on the other side, right? There must be some reason. Someone somewhere has information is saying if you guys come
if that's the case, every Democrat voted to release the files. There were a ton of Republicans that voted not to release the files until recently, by the way, when they were getting hammered
for it. I'm very
for it.
Suspect about that too.
And I'm not. Listen, I wish that, but I will say this: the Maxwell trial happened under the Joe Biden administration. Then there was an appeal. Those files were sealed for years under the Biden administration. If there's an opportunity to release all the files, then I'm not going to defend them if they did do that. But Kamala Harris is not a policymaker, and that was not her decision. And I guess, that's my question to you is if Kamala, I'm not saying Kamala was perfect. I think there are better candidates out there on the left.
One thing different on the Epstein files.
But you guys were angry because you thought she over-prosecuted people in San Francisco, weren't you?
No, I don't remember.
Okay. There are a lot of Republicans that are angry because on drug charges, they were angry because they felt like she over-prosecuted people as the Attorney General of San Francisco. And now you're saying that you think she would be easy on pedophiles.
No, I don't remember. I personally have never said anything about her over-prosecuting.
Okay. Well, I respectfully disagree with you. I think Kamala Harris would have done, I think she actually cares about victims. And I believe she would have taken a stronger stance on this issue. So I would disagree with you there. I can tell you right now, we wouldn't be threatening Greenland if Kamala was president. We wouldn't have tariffs on all these countries where Canada is doing deals with China.
I don't have a problem with the tariff stuff. I'm going to tell you from an economic policy position, I think it's an interesting approach. We've kind of had this kind of open, let's call it an open borders economy for a very long time. the whole kind of globalist free trade thing. And what that's done is it's allowed a lot of other nations to really, really build their economies off the backs of Americans. And I don't like it, right? So let me tell you why. Let me give you a great example. So let's take China, U.S. Let's talk tariffs, right? So China, U.S. We've been playing with the tariffs back and forth, up and down with China, using it as a tool here and there. Well, here's the problem with free trade in China. China uses slaves. China doesn't care if their workers die. There's no EPA in China. They don't care about the environmental issues. They don't care about anything. It's not a fair playing field. Here, we've got rules to try and protect our workers. We've got rules to try and protect the environment, all these different things. So if we have truly free trade with China, we lose every time. So we either have to completely remove regulation.
Tom, who's paying in the United States of America? Who are the people that are suffering from the tariffs?
Right now, everybody, but I think it's
the American consumer, right?
Long-term gain.
Sure. Well, that's debatable, but right now we know for sure that the American consumer are the ones that are paying
Brian,
more than that are suffering.
What's going to happen long-term? So I was in banking before I was in law. So this is something that I was credit union. I was actually like a for the people type banker. But so let's look at this. The trade deficit and all the stuff with China keeps getting worse. And it gets worse because all of our manufacturing has gone offshore. We have offshored everything, almost everything, to China because there's just no regulation. They can do it cheaper. They don't care about their people. At some point, they're an avowed enemy of us, right? They're very open about the fact that they don't like the United States. That's not like something that's hard to look up. It's not exactly a friendly relationship. So we're going to trust China to manufacture everything. At some point, we have to move the manufacturing and some of that stuff back here so there's real American jobs and good things in America.
When was the last time we had record manufacturing jobs? Do you know who that was under?
It's been a minute, but no.
Joe Biden. We had records when it came to growth, manufacturing jobs and growth. That was under Joe Biden.
Listen, the economic numbers that came out under Biden were absurd. The inflation we were experiencing. I mean, listen, in fairness, he couldn't have had good numbers even if he wanted to, because we had the COVID crap going on. There was
right. I agree, but all I was simply saying is that we had record manufacturing numbers under the Biden administration.
Those numbers were fake as hell.
I don't know. I mean, if you want to talk about fake numbers, why is it every time the unemployment numbers come out or when private sector job numbers come out, Donald Trump calls it fake and then he fires somebody? So if you want to talk about fake.
Listen, both parties fake the numbers. The economic numbers, I mean, I got to be honest with you. The economic numbers, if you look at them, they're very, very tough to actually figure out.
What about the unemployment numbers?
Same with those. They play games with both parties do this.
So you don't think any of the numbers that are coming out are real accurate numbers? They're all fake?
From our federal government? No, I don't. Yeah. I don't think many are, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what turned me on to this. It's the numbers during COVID. I could literally show you and prove to you they were fake. So every now and then I'll get a bug up my butt and I'll trace these numbers because I know how to do that, right? So I'll trace the numbers. I'll look at the unemployment. I'll look at this and look at that. And I'll say, what here looks like a confounding factor in this analysis? What looks at this? And I do that. And inevitably, every one of these numbers, there's always something, right? And both parties do it. And you don't even have to believe me. You can look. If you search, pick your number, pick unemployment, right? If you search, say, show me why unemployment numbers are fake for the year, whatever year. Both parties claim the other party's lying because the way that those numbers are calculated, they change it up all the time, right? It's not like a consistent good thing where you can actually count on these things.
Let's just say that is true. Let's just say that is true. Every time Donald Trump speaks, he makes it like everything's shiny and dandy in this country and things are great and this is the best economy we've ever had. Would you agree with me that Donald Trump is lying when he makes those statements?
Well, I certainly don't think we have the best economy ever, but I do think that we will. I do think so. As many problems as I have with Trump, I've been on record, and I'm going to be very clear. I do think 2026 that the economy will turn around quite a bit. I do.
And if it doesn't, will you blame Donald Trump?
I will certainly put a lot more blame on Trump 2026.
Okay.
2025,
Day one, Donald Trump. Donald Trump
2025
said
was
that
still
he
running
was
his budget. Biden's
Well,
budget.
Donald Trump said that he was going to lower prices on day one. Other than eggs and gas prices down 28 cents to compared to what it was last year at this time, what else has gone down in the supermarket? Can you name me one other thing that's gone down a year ago today?
I would say that prices, I mean, this is anecdotal, right? This is 100% anecdotal. In my opinion, we've seen prices creep down a little bit, but they're still terrible. Terrible.
Meat is way up. Almost every item in the supermarket a year ago to now has gone up, except for
especially
eggs.
where you live.
Correct.
Especially where you live, because I was just out west, and
Right.
it's brutal.
But what I try to do, Tom, is I try to be fair, right? Some people will say, well, in my town, gas is only $1.99. Well, that's not the national average, right? The national average on most products in a supermarket are up compared to a year ago. And I say, okay, well, when are things going to change? Because Donald Trump keeps making it sound like everything is headed in the right direction. Private sector job growth is abysmal. Okay, it's abysmal. The unemployment rate when Joe Biden left office was at 4.1%. It's hovering between 4.5 and 4.7% now. Now, if you don't believe statistics, then what parameters do we have? I believe the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I believe them when they come out with these numbers. And if a number is not favorable to MAGA, they say it's fake. And if a number looks good, then they say, oh, look at these numbers. It's great.
I didn't believe the numbers go by the numbers. Biden either. I didn't believe them under Biden either. It's been a long time.
Well, then what parameter can we go by? Then what can we go by to be accurate?
We don't have a good accurate thing. That's the problem. It's one of the problems we have. So I filed a lawsuit during COVID, and it was based on the Paperwork Reduction Act and the Information Quality Act, right? So there's a couple laws on the books that require the government to put out good and accurate numbers. And I could show, and I had evidence to prove that the government was lying and faking statistics, right? So I put it in federal court. You know what the federal court told me? They said I don't have standing. They said that I can't sue because I wasn't, my client wasn't injured, and he was. He was actually a statistician who, their fake numbers actually made him look like he didn't know what he was doing. And we could show that the numbers were fake, right? But they said we don't have standing. It was an administrative law. There's no question. Like, I literally did the work on this. I put it in a federal court, and I stand behind the work 100%. The government fakes numbers everywhere. They do. And one of the problems that we have is there is no objective way to know what the accurate numbers are. What I can tell you is that in my life, my personal experience is that the numbers still suck, right? They're improving a little bit, but the numbers still suck. I can tell you that based on economic policy and that my knowledge of economic policy, that I think that they will improve with what's happening over the course of this year. During 2025, we lived under the budget that was passed under Biden. So that's true of every incoming president, right? So every incoming president, their first year is living under the budget of their predecessor. I don't think, of the things that Donald Trump has done poorly, I don't think the economy is one of them. I think it will turn around. I don't think that I disagree with him on a lot of things. But I think the economy is probably going to be one of the shining things for us over the next couple. But let me preface this, because I ain't entirely happy here either. It's going to turn around. We're going to see improvement for the next few years. But that's when, and again, I want to challenge you to look into this. As the AI revolution continues, human jobs are going to disappear. And there's kind of this push. There's this push out there that says, well, listen, I'll get a trade job. Well, have you seen Optimus? It's got an opposable thumb. It can do anything you can do. It can't do it well yet, but in the next 5 years, it will be able to. You can ask, Elon Musk has talked extensively about this. In fact, it's out there. Human jobs are going to go the way of the dodo because we're not doing anything to protect them. And Trump is ushering this in.
Tom, I will say this. I don't root for Donald Trump to fail. Because if Donald Trump fails, the country fails. However, I'm going by what he's done thus far and what he did at his first administration. Here's what we know. Based on history, Barack Obama left him with a pretty damn good economy. And for lack of a better term, he found a way to fuck it up. Now, I understand that COVID was a big part of what happened when he left office, when we were all locked up in our rooms.
The Trump but at the same time, was good until COVID hit.
That's not entirely true. In fact, before COVID started, the unemployment rate had had gone up significantly ever since Donald Trump, when he took office, before COVID got us. So from a lot of parameters of where the economy was, that's not necessarily true. But I will tell you this, after Joe Biden left office, Donald Trump again took over an economy that was headed in the right direction. Inflation was headed in the right direction. We were headed in the right direction as a country. So I'm looking at the history of this, and I'm looking at where we're at right now. I hope you're right, Tom. I guess I'm not very positive on Donald Trump's economy, which right now, to this day, the only people that are significantly happy with the economy are some of the richest people in this country.
Oh, they ought to be.
The tech billionaires are doing great under this economy, but everybody else is suffering and struggling. And that's not make America great again. That's making America poor again.
You asked me why I was concerned about J.D. Vance. That's why, right? So his ties to Palantir, which I don't like. This is something that you should also look into, Brian. And I think your audience would like this. And I mean this very sincerely. So if you look at the way that we're moving the digital ID and the track and trace, this is very disturbing. Palantir coming into the government and having an AI system that has access to all of our medical, all of our tax, all of our this, all of our that. Basically, the government can track and trace everything we're doing. Now, let me tell you what's worse than that. And this is happening under Donald Trump. This is one of the reasons I'm upset with him. We also have, with the Genius Act, we had all the crypto acts, right? Everybody, oh, crypto, right? Here's the problem. The Genius Act and some of these crypto laws that we're passing allow what's called AML and BSA laws and regulations to kick in on the crypto. Now, I know this is policy wonk, and I'm going to put people to sleep, but let me tie it in for a second. That means that every single crypto dollar that you spend that is a stable coin, which is where we're going to go with things. And if anybody's into crypto, they can, stable coins.
Donald Trump is definitely into crypto.
He certainly is.
He's made billions of dollars is enriching his family doing it. He's definitely into crypto.
So the crypto, these stable coins, they're subject to it. AML is anti-money laundering. BSA is Bank Secrecy Act rules. With Palantir, with the AI system, with the track and trace, every single crypto dollar that you have will be tracked and traced from beginning to end. There is no more, well, I'm going to write this. I'm just not going to count this tip. I'm not going to count that. Every single thing that you do will be tracked and traced. The cash will go away. That's going to have, there'll probably still be cash at some levels, but for the most part, cash is going to go away. You already see a lot of places that don't accept cash. That's going to get way worse. And then everything you do will be tracked and traced. Now, remember, we're moving right now. A lot of places, a lot of social media is asking for your to verify your ID, right? So the real ID system that they're putting in place allows for you to, it includes biometric data, by the way. So every camera out there, did you see the Ring commercial during the Super Bowl? They said we can find your dog.
Yep.
Okay, yep. Well, I didn't authorize Ring to look at my damn camera. How the hell are they doing that? I don't want them doing that. Did anybody say, hey, Ring, you can look at my camera anytime you want? No. You know why they can do it? Because of the end user license agreements, just like the ones you sign with this.
So this is your expertise. From a generic sense, I can tell you this. I'm very concerned as the president of the United States making billions of dollars and enriching his family in a crypto Ponzi scheme. That's not something that Kamala Harris would have done. That's certainly not something that Joe Biden would have done.
Listen, Hunter
and Donald
Biden
Trump
made how much in Ukraine off of a Ponzi scheme? Listen, they're
how
all
much,
the same.
No, they're not all the same. Donald Trump has enriched himself 10 times over since he became president of the United States. Joe Biden didn't do that. Now, I have no doubt that, Hunter Biden took advantage of who his father is, and he made $50,000 a month off of Burisma. Jared Kushner received $2.1 billion from the Saudis. Donald Trump is getting a $400 million jet from Qatar and a $5.5 billion resort. So it's apples to oranges as compared to a shady dealing that you're alleging with Ukraine involving Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who has literally made,
How about China? How about the money they got?
What about China? What did he? Tell me. What did he make off of China? How has that been established?
Let me throw this one to you. Rosemont Seneca, right? That's Hunter's investment crew. At the time that Hunter was part of Rosemont Seneca, they invested in a company called Metabiota. Do you know what Metabiota did? They
No.
were a part of the Eco Health Alliance project that created COVID in China, in the Wuhan lab.
Okay, but if this was all true, James Comer had years investigating the alleged Biden crime family, and they found nothing. I heard the same stuff about Hillary Clinton. Okay, but they didn't prove it.
I did an investigation. I don't care what
I
James
understand
Comer
that.
did.
Well, listen, they had the opportunity to investigate the Bidens. They literally found nothing other than the fact that Joe Biden paid off his brother for some loan, like 50 grand or something.
They're investigating the Epsteins, and they can't find anything there either. Do you really believe?
No, they found a lot actually. Actually, no, they found a lot just with the documents that have been released. We found a lot.
They just told us that there's no evidence of crimes. I mean, they're lying.
Right, but lying. But we saw the Epstein files and the millions of files that have been released, at least some of them that have been shown to the public. I guess my point being is that Donald Trump doesn't care. He's doing it all out in the open. It doesn't matter whether it's Qatar and resorts there. He's done shady business dealings nonstop. He's literally selling pardons. The guy who runs 80% of his crypto scheme scandal is a guy that he pardoned a year ago. I mean, and we're not talking about, and by the way, I don't condone any fraud, anything, whether it's 1 million, whether it's 1,000, or whether it's 1 billion. But the levels of scandals and the levels of corruption between the Biden administration and the Trump administration, it's like comparing apples to oranges here. I mean, that's the point that I guess I'm trying to make.
Don't you feel like, because you and I are on opposite sides of the political aisle, but I mean, we're both media and doing our thing and watching this. I mean, doesn't it just feel to like a damn stage? Doesn't it feel like we're watching this show? I mean,
it's a lot of political theater. I think it's a lot of.
I don't see any truth anywhere in Washington. I don't know.
Tom, is it really? I'm not saying it doesn't happen on both sides, but have you ever seen anything on the left that what Pam Bondi did today? Have you ever seen any bit of witness testimony, any type of testimony under oath from an attorney general? Listen, I didn't like Bill Barr. I haven't liked every attorney general.
Merrick
Have you
Garland
ever seen
weaponized the DOJ on one of the most profound levels I've ever seen?
You're never going to hear me defend Merrick Garland. I'm never going to defend him. But have you ever seen a charade like Pam Bondi's performance today? I've never seen anything like that before. Her unprofessionalism, the grandstanding, not answering questions, not even looking at the victims. I thought that was despicable.
Listen, I'm not going to argue with you that Pam Bondi should be fired because I keep saying it everywhere, and I'll keep saying it. She should be fired yesterday. I can't wait for Pam Bondi to be fired. I can't.
You know why he won't do that, Tom? In my opinion, you know why Donald Trump won't? Because she's a yes. Well, no. I think it's because she is a yes woman for Donald Trump. She will do everything and anything to protect Donald Trump. Do you know she had little note cards attacking every Democrat that was questioning her? So instead of actually answering, I mean, you saw it. I mean, it was all.
Listen,
I mean, instead of
the Jamie Raskin thing. So, and I get a boot out of it because I don't like Jamie Raskin. But I'll be honest with you, it was so transparent that she had, she was looking for a few media zingers. So, and this was very, very
audience of one, Tom. She had an audience of one, and she doesn't care about the victims.
It was more than one. It was.
I think it's just Donald Trump.
That audience, or that was done. That was 100% scripted, planned. Listen, you're going to get excoriated. Tom Massey's got great points. It is what it is. So, but I
respect Massey a lot. But look at what Donald Trump has done to him. Look at what Donald Trump's base has done to him. What did he do wrong other than just wanting accountability?
Donald Trump's base is very split on Massey, just like they were MTG.
Why would anybody be split on Massey? Forget about all the guy wants is accountability and justice for the victims. Why is that a bad thing? I don't understand.
I don't know. I like Massey. I can't tell you.
I have respect for him. I don't always agree with him, but I have respect for him. I don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was right on this issue. So was Lauren Boebert. So was Nancy Mace. By the way, I think
the people who will stand for something on true principle, but the number of people in Congress, and I've met a lot of people, the number of people in Congress on either side of the aisle that I believe will actually stand for anything. I mean, you could count them on one hand. It's just the whole place.
And the Republican Party throws them down the toilet. Mitt Romney voted to impeach Donald Trump. How did his political career go? Look at what they did to Liz Cheney. Look at what they did to Adam Kinzinger.
Should have been. Liz Cheney literally shredded the evidence on the J6 committee because she knew she was a fraud.
That has not been proven that anybody shredded any evidence whatsoever. I don't know where you're getting that from.
Where's
And
it
I don't
at?
listen. I have no idea what evidence you're referring to. What I do know is that Liz Cheney stood up to Donald Trump, and they ostracized her.
It's been reported widely. It's just common that the J6 committee, after their stuff, that they shredded all the evidence. It's widely.
I haven't seen any direct evidence. Just because a right-wing entity claims something doesn't make it true. I haven't seen that.
Well reported across. I mean, this is not something that's. I'll look it up here as well. I mean,
yeah, that's news to me. I've heard that conspiracy theory, but I haven't seen that. You can look it up. I can look it up.
Well, let's look it up. I mean, listen, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I'm looking it up as well, just like you are.
Yeah, and how much has media changed? You can look this stuff up online while you're doing. I mean, it's kind of crazy how this is gone. But
welcome to 2026.
Well, hey, wait till the AI can tell us everything. We'll be unnecessary at some point. And my computer's still looking for this stuff, so it's but anyways, this is
so the absence of some video files appeared to only affect Simone's case. It's been unclear whether the Department of Justice had any intent of removing any files. And there's really nothing else that I see.
There was a House
that would suggest
House subcommittee on oversight chaired by Loudermilk.
Case against Glenn Simone, who pleaded guilty to a charge of disorderly and disruptive conduct, and the alleged from people on the right, they allege that there were a bunch of files that disappeared. And again, there was no evidence from the Department of Justice ever intentionally removed any files. So there's nothing that I see that would directly prove what you were saying, other than some files in the Simone case. Other than that, I mean, I just did a Google search and I looked at a couple of the same articles. We know what happened on January 6th. I know what happened on January 6th because I have two eyes. And what happened on January 6th was we have a president of the United States who refused to concede a free and fair election. To this day, there's been no.
I'll send you a link to some videos on that.
Well, I mean, okay. Okay, you can. But I can send you a link of officers being beaten and people chanting "Hang Mike Pence" because they believed Donald Trump when Donald Trump said the election was stolen.
Yeah,
the reason why I brought up
were those people actually were those actually the people that they're claiming they are?
I don't know. What do you mean?
What about the reports of Antifa showing up? What about the reports of people?
There's no evidence that anybody from Antifa was at the January 6th insurrection that committed crimes. How do we know that? Because every single one of those people had the opportunity to present their case in a courtroom. You're an attorney, you know this. They had the right to a defense.
Well,
some of them pled guilty.
Everybody wasn't arrested.
Yeah. Well, name me one person that was a member of Antifa that it was proven. By the way, what is Antifa? Does that mean anti-fascist? Is Antifa an organization? Who is funding Antifa? So what is Antifa? Are they funded? Who are they funded by, and where are their headquarters?
Well, it looks like a lot of it's coming through some of the Arabella crew. They're obviously not an organized, but there are there's groups that are very.
So they're not really a group then, if they're not organized, right? There's no ringleader. You don't know where they're being funded. You know why I say this, Tom?
Think that a terrorist group is going to tell you where they're headquartered?
If they were a terrorist group. So the CIA and the FBI and the CIA directors testified last month, and they claimed what you were claiming, that Antifa is a terrorist hate group. And then when asked under oath, where's your evidence? Do you know who the ringleader is? Do you know how they're being funded? He had absolutely no answers to those questions. If you're going to call somebody a hate group, or you're going to say that they are a terrorist group, you have to know where they are, where are their headquarters, how are they being funded? They couldn't answer any basic questions. The word Antifa means anti-fascist. Does that mean I'm Antifa? I'm anti-fascist. I guess I'm Antifa. I don't even know what Antifa is.
Listen, we can all see. I mean, this is to argue that there's no Antifa is an absurd thing. Come on.
What is it though? I mean, what is it? I can point. I mean,
it's the
Enrique Tarrio
and wear the different things and call themselves Antifa. They show up here and there. They obviously aren't announcing who they are. They're almost universally involved with violence and illegality. I mean,
Then who's running the organization? How are they?
do you
Where are they
think that
getting their
they're
money
going to
from?
announce that?
If you asked
Hey,
me,
look,
the
we're going
Proud
to run a
Boys.
criminal organization. Yeah, but Proud Boys are not trying to be criminal. This is an openly criminal organization. Their job
If
is
it's
to
an
disrupt
openly criminal organization, then you have to be able to tell me how the organization is. For example, Black Lives Matter. There were 8 individuals that started Black Lives Matter.
So
You
are
can
they an openly
tell.
criminal organization?
I didn't say
agree
that. I'm
they
just,
are,
I'm
but-
just, I'm just, I'm just giving you. Enrique Tarrio was the leader of the Proud Boys. There were groups of people that were getting money funneled in by white supremacist hate groups. You follow the money with these certain organizations. If Antifa is a terrorist group, then you have to be able to give me something other than, well, there's a bunch of people that are just showing up. Give me some facts as to who these people are, where are their headquarters, who is funding them. If you can't answer those basic questions, then I don't know how anybody could call a group a terrorist organization or an organization for that matter.
Well, I mean, let's Google search Antifa, and what is it? They've been designated a terrorist group. Okay,
from who? Who designated them a terrorist
the White
group?
House. So I mean,
The White House, right? And when the people in the White House designated them a terrorist group, they actually testified under oath in D.C. last month. And I highly suggest you watch that testimony because they had no answers. They didn't know how they were funded. They didn't know who the leaders were. They didn't know where their headquarters were. And they said, well, we'll get back to you on that, meaning we don't know what the hell we're talking about.
So
how could you call
I'm looking right now. And what I did was I ran a Google search and I just searched Antifa, right? And I looked for news. I just clicked news under Google, it says Antifa. And there's, I don't know, let's see. Well, the more pages, Google didn't tell me how many search results there are, but of news reports referencing Antifa. Now, listen,
and did they answer any of those questions that I had asked?
Well, no, but I mean, what terrorist organization puts out their address and their structure?
Well, we knew that Al Qaeda was run by Osama bin Laden, right? We know who runs the Oath Keepers.
Our CIA did figure that out. When did they tell us?
Right.
About the time that they decided that they needed to eliminate him.
Our CIA was asked those very same questions about Antifa. They couldn't name or answer any questions. If you're going to label a group a terror group, you have to know a little bit about the group other than, hey, these people are
the self-described people who's, yeah, I'm part of an Antifa, right? You're going to tell me
who are you referring to? Who are you referring to? I don't know what you mean by that.
Google search Antifa, click news, and see how many people have described themselves as Antifa. How many?
There are people that describe themselves part of the Santa Claus or part of the Tooth Fairy. Does that mean they're? I mean, so what? I mean, you have to have evidence to show that this is a group that is funded by certain people. Where are they run? Who are their leaders? If people just show up and they say, "Hey, I'm Antifa," that doesn't mean they're part of an organized group. I keep on hearing these people are paid protesters in Minneapolis. These No Kings protests, they were all paid. There's zero evidence.
Did a great job of pulling that stuff out. So take a look at Data Republicans' work on it. She does. By the way, that girl is brilliant. She did a great job of tracing the money on this. 100%.
Which group?
Data Republican. She's on X. It's
but as regards to what the No Kings protest or
so, the protest in Minnesota. I don't know which specific protest.
So she provided evidence that these groups of people are getting paid. They're paid protesters.
She provided evidence of funding going all the way through to structure and make this go. She did a great job.
And who was doing the funding?
It was ran through a series of NGOs, and I would have to double check. I don't have the names off the top of my head. I didn't know where.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that because that's new news to me.
Take a look.
I haven't seen.
Data Republican has done an incredible job, and her work is really exemplary. I gotta.
So it's called Data Republican.
Yeah,
that doesn't really sound like an independent investigation to me.
No, but she backs it up. She brings the receipts on it. She really does.
I know, but when you tell me that a group called Data Republican is claiming that there are paid protesters in Minneapolis, I get a little. I would speculate, and I would also say, where is the money coming from?
Take a look.
Where is her evidence?
Take a look. She's very well cited. You know, I mean, listen, so that we're at a time now where each of us does our own work, right? So if you ask me, you know, I can tell you firsthand the things that I've done work on and I've done my own due diligence on, and I can stand behind them. There is one thing that's really kind of cool about what is happening right now and about the kind of interconnectedness is that there are some brilliant people on both parties, frankly. But
Tom,
who bring the receipts, who bring the data.
But Tom, if I told you that an organization called Data Democrat has evidence that Donald Trump is a child molester, would you immediately say, "Oh, wow, it must be true," or would you be a little bit speculative on whether it was?
I have no problem with you being skeptical. I'm just telling you to take a look at it, because I would too. I would too. But I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you shouldn't look at it. I'm telling you should evaluate it. See if you see a hole. I don't think. You know, I've looked at it. I don't think that she's. I think the evidence she's provided is very strong. And if you look at the totality of the evidence, you can see absolutely what's happening. But listen,
I mean, you know, there's people that make claims again about the 2020 election saying this is strong evidence, but it's never been proven in a court of law. People can make claims if they want to, but there has to be a smoking gun there. And I believe a lot of people in Minneapolis.
We have to get to the preponderance of the evidence. It depends on what it is, right?
Well, of course, but I think a lot of people, some people who I've talked to that have been in Minneapolis that have been protesting are doing it because and using their First Amendment rights because they believe what ICE is doing is, you know, terrible.
I agree with you. There are people who are legitimately believe what they're doing. I'm not going to tell you that every single person in Minnesota is a paid protester. I absolutely believe there's people who believe in what they're doing. I also believe that just like everything else, there's people who are exercising their First Amendment rights. I just think there's a lot of corruption and a lot of that are paid. I think there's a lot of funding. I think there's a lot of support to gin this up. I think that I mean, listen, I'm sorry, you're going to have to forgive me. It's been a while since I did this, but I dug into the No Kings funding. I mean, No Kings funding is mind blowing the way that did. And I wasn't
paid. I went to some No Kings protests. None of my friends were paid. None of my friends were paid. I know a lot of people that went to those No Kings protests. Tens of millions, by the way, tens of millions of people. And there were 27 arrests. And every single one of those arrests were from Trump supporters. In fact, I got into it with a Trump supporter. So I don't know. Tens of millions of people were protesting. They were peacefully protesting. And I heard everybody on the right come, oh, they were all paid protesters, George Soros. And I'm like, come on, man. You know,
but you know what? That's a case study and why you should come over to my side of the fence, which is the side that says, I don't believe any of this, right? Because they say the same thing about the conservatives when they protest or they do something, right? Both sides lie. You want to come to my side of the fence?
What Democrats have said that Republicans are paid protesters? I never heard anybody say that about January 6th. Now, some of those people were domestic terrorists.
They call them domestic terrorists and then fake the whole thing. I think the J6 was faked, man.
What do you mean? What do you mean it was fake? I don't understand when you make statements like that. It throws me for a loop. What part about police officers being beaten was fake? What part about
being beaten to death when she's laying on the ground is fake? What part of
I haven't seen any video or evidence of that. I haven't seen any video evidence of that.
Look at the video of her.
I'd be happy to
video.
Okay, let's just say that that's true. Let's just say that there was somebody. Let's just say that that's true. That there was somebody who murdered that woman. Okay, but there were also videos of officers being beaten. What part of that was fake?
So here's the thing that I don't know. I believe that J6 was a setup. Now, I think there were some innocent people that got stuck in the middle and that were stupid and went in places.
Okay, perhaps, but that doesn't mean that the entire day was fake. There were a lot of bad people that did some very bad things that day. Very bad things.
If we can look at the fact, if we can examine critically whether or not it was a provoked thing by a group of insiders who wanted to do this, which I think there's evidence of. I know it sounds profound, but if you haven't looked at it, you know, look at the evidence first.
There's no evidence that anybody was forced into the Capitol to commit violent crimes and defecate on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Nobody forced those people to do that. They did it on their own.
Someone shitting on Pelosi's desk is probably warranted. She's done a terrible job.
Well, I think just because, but Just because you disagree with somebody's politics doesn't justify breaking into somebody's office and defecating on their desk. I think we need to be better than that, and I think that's atrocious behavior. And I don't think we can defend any of that behavior. You know, I would go Republican and Democrat on that. I just think it's wrong, and I don't think that was fake. And you know, over 1,500 people were arrested. People died. A lot of people were injured that day. It was a terrible day for the country.
Died, yeah.
Well, yeah, Brian Sitnick died the next day. You don't think what happened to Brian? So you just thought it was a coincidence that he had you thought it was
I looked
coincidence.
at the story about this. It's been a long time since I've looked at Brian Sitnick because I didn't know we were going to talk about.
You think it was just a coincidence that he died
hours
later?
I don't think it was a coincidence. There was an explanation for it. I don't recall what it was. So
okay, what about the officers that have traumatic brain injury? Is that fake?
I don't know, but what I do know is that
you don't know.
No, I don't know. I don't have to look at.
You think some of these officers?
I think
you think some of these officers that were bludgeoned were faking their injuries? You think they faked their traumatic brain injury?
Set up from beginning to end, and I don't trust a damn thing about it. I would have to look at it myself before I trusted a single thing in that.
Okay, but you're talking about the causes of why you think it happened. But when you say it's fake, can you understand why some families who have lost loved ones and some officers who have committed suicide and some officers who have traumatic brain injury, when you downplay it and say that it was fake, can you understand how that could offend a lot of people who were directly affected by the incidents of that day?
Well, I think they should be very upset, and they should want to look into who actually caused it. It was
investigated already. I have a very simple explanation.
By the J6
very simple explanation. Very simple explanation.
By the
very
J6
simple.
committee.
There are a lot of, with respect, there are a lot of people in this country that are extremely ill-informed, uneducated, and brainwashed into thinking that everything Donald Trump says is true. Donald Trump did not win the 2020 election. Nobody has presented any widespread voter fraud evidence. The man couldn't admit that he lost an election. So why is it that when he loses an election, it's rigged, but then when he wins an election, everything's great?
No,
don't you find that kind of interesting?
There was election fraud in 2024 too, by the way. And for the record, so when was the evidence tested? When was the evidence tested? Fraud?
61 times Donald Trump's own attorneys had the opportunity to present evidence. And by the way, at least 15 of those judges were Republican appointed judges, and they all said that there was no merit, meaning there wasn't enough evidence
throughout.
So where's the widespread voter fraud evidence? Where is it?
Well,
where is it?
It's going to be hard to get to the discovery when you're not allowed to get there, right?
Where is it?
Case that made it to discovery. There was plenty.
Where's the widespread voter fraud evidence that could prove that the election was stolen? Where is it? Where could I go find it right now?
Go look at what Tina Peters brought you.
Wait, hold on. I'm asking you where the widespread voter fraud evidence is. And the guy the person that you is your source is a convicted felon who said she had the Hunter Biden laptop.
Look at Seth
Keshel's
work. Seth
I don't know who that is.
Okay, look at Jovan Pulitzer's work.
Where could I find it? Where could I find the widespread voter fraud evidence? Where can I find it?
Do you want me to send it to you?
Please. So you have all the widespread voter fraud evidence that proves that the election was rigged by the Democrats.
Let me tell you how this works, right? How this works in a courtroom. When you present a case that's feasible, typically, what happens is you go to discovery in a very peculiar fashion. Every single one of these cases, no matter how much evidence was presented, was thrown out. They set a standard in the courts, right? So they set a standard in the courts where they had to present evidence in a certain way on a certain level to get over the 12B motions. The way those standards were set made it impossible to get the evidence actually evaluated. In none of those cases was there actual discovery. In none of those cases was there
because the judges ruled that there were no merit. But if Democrats are capable of rigging elections, why didn't they rig the 2024 election?
I think there was a ton of fraud in 2024.
If Democrats are able to rig an election like you are claiming, why didn't they rig the 2024 election?
I think some of the down ballot races were manipulated.
But if they're capable of rigging a presidential election, why didn't they rig the last election?
Well, personally, I think it's because there's a limitation, right? I think that it can only be rigged so far. I think people were so disillusioned with Biden that it was really, you can't, if you're going to rig an election, you can move it this much. You can't move it this much. I think in 2020 it was a closer election. I don't think it was a huge thing. I think it was within the margin that you can arguably.
2024 was a very close election, actually. In fact, the swing states were won by a couple 100,000 votes, all the swing states, which is one of the closest elections in our lifetime. It was not a landslide victory. It was a very close election by most standards, but people would say. So I ask again, if the Democrats are capable, as you are saying, or alleging, that they somehow rigged the 2020 election.
I also think that Trump had a phenomenal amount of poll watchers, people watching. I mean, listen, I remember on 2024, I remember on election night watching as a group of people were filming, driving after trucks that were trying to bring ballots into, I can't remember what state, but trucks full of ballots that were late arriving, just like in 2020. There were people everywhere watching these. So I think in 2024, I don't think that they were capable of doing it the same way. I think there was too much vision, too much.
I do find it interesting that when Donald Trump wins an election twice, everything ran smoothly and there was no major fraud. Nothing was rigged.
As big.
Nothing was rigged when Donald Trump wins, but when Donald Trump loses, it was rigged. I find that very interesting.
No, I think it was. I think that there was fraud in both elections. I'll tell you where I think most of the fraud.
Yeah, but saying there's fraud is very different. When there's going to be fraud in every election, I agree with you.
You can only.
But is there widespread
fraud before it becomes a detectable?
But in order to say that an election was rigged and stolen, there has to be evidence proven in a court of law of widespread voter fraud that could change the outcome.
Let you look at it. If the courts aren't going to let you look at it, you can't.
It's not. No, the judges said that there was no merit because nobody to this point has shown any evidence of widespread voter fraud.
I consulted on a couple cases that I said you should not file, right? Those cases, I can tell you firsthand. I recommended against them being filed. Okay, so you can say, well, that means it's a bad case, right? No, it wasn't. It was because by the time I had looked at those cases, this was well after. I mean, it wasn't right there, December, January of 2020. It was after that, and there were still cases, dangling out for quite some time. Those cases that I looked at, the reason that I said you should not file those cases is not because there wasn't sufficient evidence to show that they were plausible. It was because the standard had been set in a way where you didn't have to show plausibility. Normally, the standard for a 12B motion is plausible with evidence construed in favor of the non-moving party. In those cases, though, in the specific instance of election cases, the judges made the rules, shifted the rules, they changed it. And they said that you have to not only show that, but you have to show essentially that you would have won the election, but for the fraud that you're alleging. Now, that's an impossible standard without discovery. Literally, from a legal perspective, that makes it impossible without discovery. The cases were set and structured in a way where it is absolutely, unquestionably impossible to win an election case right now, no matter what happens. And this is problematic, right? Here's the problem that I have, Brian. Why is it that to this day, they don't want us looking at the machines? Why is it that to this day, they don't want us look at, look at the fit they had when Trump went in and took the ballots from Georgia. If there's
how many times did they, how many times did they recount in Georgia?
By the same people.
Six times.
The same people using the same machines are going to come out with a different result?
These are Republicans like Brad Raffensperger. These are
about as much a Republican as Lisa Murkowski.
I don't know what that means. He's been a registered Republican his entire life. I don't know why you would say that.
Well,
I don't understand.
You don't have.
There were 6 recounts. There were 6 recounts in Georgia, and again, I say once again, all I've heard from the right is sources of Mike Lindell, who I think is a buffoon, Dinesh D'Souza, who's a convicted felon who was, by the way, sued for 2,000 mules and had to pay up in civil lawsuits because of some of the lies that were told in there. And by the way, they did not prove anything in that film. Not one person was convicted. They didn't expose anything. And now you're sourcing Tina Peters, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and I apologize if she's your friend, but I can tell you, Tom, I'm an honest person. I think she's a lunatic. And based on the interview that I did with her alone, she said so many batshit crazy things. I can't believe it. And she's a convicted felon. All I'm simply saying is
convicted is a stretch if you look at that case and how it was.
Well, but Tom, here's my argument here, right? I'm not saying our courts always get it right. You're an attorney, okay? Yeah. Our courts don't always get things right, but there's a reason why we have a system put in place in the United States of America.
You have an opportunity. Brian? What if it's broken for
I'm
Democrats
not saying,
and Republicans? What if
I'm not saying our system is perfect, but what I am saying is I'm not going to take the word of people like that, of Tina Peters and Dinesh D'Souza.
How about Siobhan Pulitzer and how about Seth Keshel? How about those two?
Again, they have an opportunity to present whatever evidence they claim they have in a courtroom. Donald Trump had the opportunity to do that.
No, they didn't. The court,
every judge. Now, and by the way, 15 of those judges were Republican-appointed judges, including some Trump-appointed judges.
So was John
and
Roberts,
they all ruled
who threw out the Texas case.
Well, they all ruled that there was no merit. So, I mean, if you're saying all the judges are corrupt,
who threw out the Texas case and said that there was no standing, which was an appalling ruling.
Well, again, I haven't seen any evidence of widespread voter fraud, and until anybody can prove that.
Out. What if the system's broken, Brian?
Then where's the evidence?
Where is it? The system is broken. What do you think that you're asking me how a corrupt system? You're asking me for evidence in a corrupt system from a corrupt courtroom, but I can show you evidence, right? I can show you all sorts of evidence, but it doesn't count to you unless it either fits your narrative or I show you in a courtroom. Well, I'm telling you, the courts are broken. There's some bad courts on certain issues, real bad, a lot of them. And I'm going to tell you, I looked at some of these election cases. They were not handled properly, in my opinion. There were COVID cases that I was a part of. There were some that were okay and went real well. There were others that were completely mishandled under the law, in my opinion. And I'm just going to say to you that maybe, I'll give you, I don't like what Trump's doing with Epstein. I don't like what's happening with a lot of the Republican Party. But maybe both parties are broken. Maybe the whole system's broken. Maybe instead of us fighting with each other about who's worse, we should recognize they're all worse and start fighting.
Let me get back to Epstein. Let me get back to Epstein real quick, and then we can call it a night because we've been doing this for a long time, Tom. 3 hours.
It's a good conversation,
it's a long debate. I agree. I did a 4.5-hour debate with Andrew Wilson last week. That took a lot of energy out of me, but I'm losing my. That was interesting. No, I appreciate you being here. I will say this, Tom. Saying you don't like something, while I appreciate the fact that you're willing to call out Donald Trump for the Epstein stuff, like I don't like broccoli. Okay, it's good for you. Either. I don't like broccoli. I need some cheese on it, right? There's a lot of things in life I don't like, but I think there's a difference between not liking something and then protecting child sexual abusers, which is exactly what Donald Trump and his administration are doing. There's not liking something. And then there's just utterly despicable and reprehensible behavior.
Yeah.
And if you can find me Democrats that are in the Epstein files, I would say the exact same thing about them if it can be proven. And any Democrats that have protected child pedophiles, I would say the exact same thing about them.
Flexner. I mean, the list is long.
Could be very possible, and I would not defend that either. But Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And you know that he is, if he didn't do any criminal things to children, he certainly is protecting people that did. And to me, there's nothing more reprehensible than that. And I know you agree with me on that. And we have to call this out. And these victims deserve justice. And at a minimum, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel need to resign because they are a disaster. They are a disaster. And what Pam Bondi did today in D.C. is utterly despicable. And it shouldn't matter whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. It shouldn't matter. No. And as I've been very consistent, and by the way, most Democrats in D.C. are echoing this, expose them all. If you're a Democrat or a Republican and you're in those files, they should all be investigated to the highest extent of the law, and these victims deserve justice.
and
Yes, but it's not going to happen under Donald Trump. It's not going to happen. He is hiding.
Happen under anybody. None of these guys would do it.
Well,
that's my point.
I can tell you right now, if there's a person that I trust least in this issue, it's the guy that's over 3,000 times. Do you know that? And Moskowitz said this. The word God isn't even in the Bible as many times as Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. Think about that, Tom. Yeah. Well, think about that.
Brian, listen, I don't want to do this, but you're kind of giving me no choice. Those Epstein files include every wackadoodle report from anybody on the planet. So the number of times that his name or anybody else's name is mentioned doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is which of the files are credible, right? So the DOJ, in their just absolutely infinite incompetence, put these out in a way that was absolutely absurd. And I think it's intentional. I personally think that Pam Bondi wants Donald Trump to just get destroyed. I think that they just want to destroy this administration.
I think she protects him. I think she protects him at every avenue.
I think she wants to destroy him. I think her and Wiles are undermining everything Republican there is. I got to be honest with you. They are just the worst I've ever seen. Nobody could be this incompetent by accident. Nobody. What she did today, listen, I don't care how dumb she is. What she did today, that can't be accidental. Nobody's that dumb. But
you don't think it's at the directive of Donald Trump? I think everything Pam Bondi does is at the directive of Trump.
Pam Bondi and Susie Wiles are undermining Trump on a profound level. That said, I don't want Trump is the boss, and at the end of the day, he needs to make changes. But I don't care about the number of times that a word comes up in the files. What I care about is the credibility of those. Now, you've been hounding me about proof all night. You have no proof, and showing me a bunch of names and a bunch of numbers, that doesn't prove anything. I want credibility.
No,
what we do know is that Donald Trump did call the police and call Ghislaine Maxwell in 2006. We know that he did that. We've seen over and over again the credible
And in
stuff.
2009, Donald Trump lied about that when he was asked by reporters, did you know of any criminal activity of Jeffrey Epstein before he was arrested? Donald Trump in 2019 is quoted as saying, no, I didn't know. And now we're learning back in 2006, this interview and what Donald Trump said. So at a minimum, he's lying. He's hiding for somebody, if not himself. He doesn't want us seeing all these files. He doesn't want us talking about it.
I do think that this whole thing is about protecting something, someone, somewhere. I don't think it's Trump.
And by the way, there are also allegations of rape. And I'm just going to say that there's a 13-year-old girl that accused Donald Trump of that. There are other allegations in the files. And at a minimum, it should be investigated. And it hasn't been thoroughly.
I want the credible stuff, right? So that happened. That allegation was, if I'm not mistaken, that allegation was when was that one filed? Do you know?
I don't remember the year, but I could also tell you that a limo driver who was not questioned recently by anybody also said that he overheard the conversation of Donald Trump talking about this, and he wanted to stop the car and punch him in the face.
None of that's credible, right? I mean,
how do you know none of that's credible? How do you know that?
You just told me it hasn't been proven in a court of law.
Right. I want it to be investigated.
For Donald Trump than it is elsewhere.
No, not at all. What I am saying is I want it to be fully investigated. And then if there's a full investigation, Tom, can you name me one person that has been arrested in the Epstein files other than Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell? Can you name me one other person that's ever been convicted or even charged with a crime?
This is the problem I have, right? You and I have the same problem. We agree that that's horrible. I agree how about the fact
why won't they investigate? I want an investigation.
How about the fact that Todd Blanche openly said, well, now think about this. I want you to think about this. I want anybody listening to think about this. Think of how horrible what we've seen in the 3 million pages that they've dropped is, right? Just horrible. Now think about the fact that Todd Blanche says, well, we're not going to release any of the violent or terrible stuff. What? How much worse does it get? I mean, do we even want to know, right? And the rumor mill, if you talk to people in and around Washington, is, well, they're worried that this could bring down the whole government. Good. If that's what it takes to expose this, good. I don't want anybody in this government that had anything to do with child rape. No one. And tell me about that. Here's another one for you, Brian. You want another good argument for your folks to make. Epstein's job was to collect blackmail on people. Clearly, he's got it on a lot of people. Now, that information didn't just go away when he died. Someone's got it. So
Do
how
you
many
believe that
people?
he took his own life, or do you believe he was
No,
murdered?
hell no, he didn't take his own life.
Under
That's
the Donald Trump administration, I've interviewed Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, a half a dozen times. He believes Donald Trump was responsible
well, I
at
mean,
his directive.
listen, I got to be honest with you. Great. Where's this evidence? Yeah, I don't
Dan
know.
Bongino and Kash Patel said that he took his own life. Can we agree that that is utter bullshit?
Oh, I can absolutely agree with that. 100%.
Who are they lying? Why would they be lying though? Who are they trying to protect?
Well, that's the problem, right? So here's the thing. What I keep hearing is, the concerns about continuity of government, global relations, this, that, and other. That's what I keep hearing. When I
Okay,
talk
but Tom,
to people
I hear
off
you.
record,
Tom, I hear you. But this is important. Like we agree
I agree.
fundamentally. We agree. Okay. My question to you is why? Why would Dan Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi lie about the alleged suicide that we believe was murder of Jeffrey Epstein? Who are they protecting?
That's the real
Who do they work
question,
for?
isn't it? Well,
Well,
listen,
give me
just
a
because they
logical
work
answer.
for 'em, well, we don't know. That's the logical
Okay,
answer.
but give me an educated guess. Why would
I think
Dan
it's you
Bongino,
want to know what I think?
why would they lie?
I think it's because our federal government was one of his handlers. I think Epstein was working directly with the CIA. I think everybody knew what was happening. I think the CIA was part of the blackmail ring. I think our intel communities were actively involved in this, and I think that there's probably a lot of threats against people's families. Because think about this, Brian. Do you think that people who would run a child rape ring for blackmail would have any problem with killing your family member if you expose them? Of course not.
Well, I'll tell you this, 11 days before Jeffrey Epstein, in our opinion, was murdered by somebody,
yeah.
in the Epstein files, we learned through emails that he met with Donald Trump Jr. I find that very, very interesting. And I also find it interesting that it happened under the Trump administration. I also find it interesting that somehow there's 1 minute missing from that 8-minute video. I've had conversations with Mark Epstein about this. By the way, Mark Epstein has hung out with Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, and he's told me things that I can't even say publicly, but I will say this. I absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt, 100% believe that Donald Trump knows exactly what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. 100%.
I think that it's probably pretty not widely known. I do believe that there's people that know what happened, but I don't think that we have any evidence that's stronger than it being the CIA and foreign intelligence. By the way, there's credible rumors, and I would say it's very credible to assume that he was selling his information to a number of, and everybody says Mossad. Listen,
it's
maybe
possible.
Mossad, but what about MI6? What about a bunch of these
Absolutely.
others? I mean, there's a bunch of places
possible.
he could be selling it to.
Tom, I don't discount what you're saying. That's very possible. But here's what we know for sure now. His partner in crime, the monster, Ghislaine Maxwell, has been given the preferential, unprecedented, and I say that because you speak to most lawmakers and attorneys and people in the courts. This is a woman who got a 20-plus year sentence, convicted in a court of law for heinous crimes. Yeah. And the Trump administration is treating her like a white-collar criminal, giving her the preferential treatment. Tom, there has to be a reason why they're doing that. And the reason is she's covering for Donald Trump, and he is worried because she has the goods on him.
I don't know. I don't know if she's listen. So let's say Ghislaine Maxwell. You got some bias here, my man, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate that we're having a good conversation on this. But you got some serious bias here.
Why do you say that?
Let's say Ghislaine Maxwell comes out and says, "Yeah, Trump did it." You're going to believe the woman who was part of the biggest.
I don't believe anything Maxwell says. No. So I don't believe anything Maxwell says. She has no credibility. But then I throw it right back at you. And by the way, I disagree with you. I don't think it's biased when I say I don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican. I want justice for the victims. I don't think there's any bias about that. But again, the guy that's in the Epstein files over 3,000 times is Donald Trump, and the administration that's giving her preferential treatment
find it odd
is Donald Trump.
That there's not a single Democrat name that's been revealed in there.
That's not true. Bill Clinton's name has been. That's not true.
Single current Democrat.
A single current Democrat? What other current Republicans besides those that have been in Trump's administration? I can't think of any other current Republicans that are in there. Can you? What would you say about Howard?
Guys in the administration are there. right?
Howard
Why?
Lutnick, what would you say about him? Last week, he just
He should be
lied.
gone. He should be absolutely gone.
Why is Donald Trump not firing him? What's his reasoning behind that?
That's a great question, isn't it?
Why, though? Give me an educated guess. Why?
I got to be honest with you. I don't know, Brian. This is not only do I not know, I'm frustrated that he hasn't.
Can it be that these
Why?
people have some dirt on Donald Trump? Can it be that Maxwell has dirt on Donald Trump? That some of these people that are in the Epstein files that Donald Trump refuses to fire might not be beneficial for Donald Trump to fire them? I mean, that's the only logical explanation that I could come up with. Why would you want a guy in your administration and that high up in your administration that not only have we learned was on Epstein Island, but last week just lied about it? Why would you want somebody like that in your administration unless he has something on you? To me, it's like in front of us.
I mean, do we really think that everybody's got something on Trump?
No, I didn't say that. I said a few do.
Why would Lutnick? I mean, Lutnick doesn't have anything to do with that. What does Lutnick
What do you mean? He's in the Epstein files. He lied about it.
Yeah, of course.
He hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. He was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. So, surely he probably hung out with Epstein and Trump. I wouldn't doubt that for 1 second. Why did he lie about it? Give me a reason why he lied about it.
Evidence that Trump did anything other than call the police on Epstein. I've seen a lot of allegations, but again,
has that been thoroughly investigated? Has anything been? That's my problem.
By neither side, right? So that
I agree. I agree.
Now,
I agree.
Some of the evidence they claim, if you can believe the FBI, which is a stretch, some of the evidence that the FBI claims was investigated and deemed not credible. Right?
There's an email that Melania Trump sent to Maxwell many years ago. I mean, listen, all I know is this: Barack Obama and Joe Biden are not seen in any pictures with the biggest sex trafficker
that you know of,
scumbag. Well, again, I don't assume something unless I see it. Okay,
right? But I think it's that it's not true either.
Well, I guess you could make the same case about you or me, right? Maybe we were hanging out on Epstein Island, but a logical person would say, "Where's your evidence?" Well, we have evidence that Donald Trump was all over hanging out with. By the way,
political officials. And here's the deal: neither you nor I are big shot politicians, right? We're big shot podcasters. But he targeted the elite of the elite of the elite, the big politicians, the big this, the big that. Now, you and I both know that it's way more likely than not that there are a lot of people being covered for. Now, who's that going to likely be? Big names, big long-term names. So people who've been politicians for a long time, because Epstein's been gone for a few years. So the people who were politicians for 20, 30, 40 years, or who were elites for 20, 30, 40 years, or who for whatever reason would have a connection, those are the people that are being covered for, right? You and I, listen, you can look at my history. I can look at your history. I'm pretty sure neither of us were on Epstein Island. But the political class, it becomes a real question. And it's a very fair question for me to say, for a very fair thing for me to say, that, listen, I don't know who's in that 3.5 million pages or those tens of thousands of hours of video, but why should I trust anybody if they're going to hide it, right? Listen, I don't trust anyone in Washington. If I've learned anything for the past however many years of watching things in Washington, I don't trust any of them. It's one thing to not trust anybody in Washington, but it's a whole nother level when Pam Bondi is asked under oath today. Agreed.
Did Donald Trump party with any underage girls? She wouldn't answer the question. You know what that tells me, Tom? Donald Trump partied with some underage girls. When Kash Patel 6 months ago wouldn't answer, did you tell Pam Bondi that Trump's in the Epstein files? He wouldn't answer the question. I immediately said, he's 100% in the Epstein files. When Pam Bondi wouldn't answer that question today, I said to myself, there you go. 100% I believe that there is evidence that he was partying with underage girls. It's why she wouldn't answer the question.
The good news is this. There's a very simple solution. We all, Democrat and Republican, come together and continue demanding that we actually have real transparency on this,
There's only a few Republicans that are doing that, and they've been ostracized. Massey is one of them. There's only a few Republicans that are being aggressive on this.
I was happy to see Mace coming out. There's a few more, and I think it's going to keep growing because I do think so. There's a reason that I figured I knew we were coming on. We were going to talk about Epstein, and there's a reason I was happy to do that because listen, I don't care where you are, Democrat, Republican, Independent. At the end of the day, if we can't come together on child rape, there's a problem. So in this instance, particularly, because you and I can, we can debate on all sorts of fun stuff, and if we want to prep for it, I can do it a little, be ready for whatever topic we want. But in this, it's manifest that there's a cover up. It's manifest that we're being lied to. It's manifest that laws were broken and people belong in jail. There's no question. The only issue is why isn't there something being done about it? Now, you're of the belief that it's because Trump's in it. I'm of the belief that there's
he is in it. We know that.
That he's guilty of whatever crime, right? Mm-hmm. I'm of the belief that it's because the people who control that information are probably creating threats. I believe that there are threats of violence against family members. I think that they will do anything to keep that stuff covered up. I think that there are very powerful people who have that information. If you have people who are able to blackmail people at the very, top of the food chain, those people are powerful, right? They can kill people, and they do, and that's a real thing. So I think that the fear is probably the biggest thing that's controlling this. But
I will say this:
either way,
Maxwell was convicted under Joe Biden, and I will say that Biden at least got some convictions. There have only been two people that have been held to account: Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, which is abundantly pathetic and disgusting. Donald Trump has worked really hard.
Didn't Trump, wasn't Epstein convicted under Trump?
Epstein, my understanding is that the investigation started under the Biden administration. And yes, you are correct that there was convictions under Donald Trump, but those investigations and charges started under Biden. But there have only been two people.
Biden was after Trump.
Correct. I got those. I got
Obama?
Those wrong. That's what I was saying. I got the years wrong there. It's been a 3.5 hour debate. My brain's a little bit fried.
No, listen. At some point, you're right. It gets messy, and that's all good.
Yeah,
but listen,
we agree fundamentally that
conviction occurred under Trump, and one conviction occurred under
Biden. And he was also.
And I don't think either party would allow this to come out. I don't think either party. I don't think there's a single person. Listen, this goes to why. You asked me about Kamala. I don't think she'd bring it up either, because I think whoever's got this information I think they're literally threatening the families, threatening lives, threatening anyone. I don't think there are people in there that I don't think we'll ever see the light of day. I think that even if this comes out, even if Trump starts, unredacting pages, and even if we see all sorts of people, I absolutely firmly believe that some of this will never see the light of day, and that we'll never know the difference, because I think that there just are people who are just never going to be. They're never going to be out.
Unfortunately, that's probably true, and it's wrong. But while we can go back and go all the way back to the George W. Bush years and talk about how this man Jeffrey Epstein, wasn't held to account, what I want to live in is the now. Yeah. And right now we have an administration that's covering up for child sex traffickers and pedophiles, and we need to speak up about it. Yeah, and as much as we could talk about Joe Biden or Barack Obama or George W. Bush, the fact of the matter is that we are living in now, and there are real victims out there. We saw some of them that were sitting behind Pam Bondi today in D.C. There are real victims out there that want justice. I want justice for them, and this is a major cover-up, and I'm not saying that the Trump administration are the only people that have covered this up, because clearly there are plenty of others that have covered this up in the past as well. But right now, Trump is the president of the United States, and they ran on this. MAGA ran on this with the binders and everything else, and the Epstein file. They ran on this stuff.
Tell me
now
this, Brian.
is, yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the binders. Think about how big of an embarrassment the binders.
Oh, it's terrible.
I mean, it was just absolutely.
Pam Bondi's an imbecile.
So but is she? I mean, listen, I really do believe. and that these people are there. I think, I'm not saying Trump's not responsible. He's the boss. But I do believe that there are people there whose job it is to just destroy anything he's trying to do. I don't believe this is so incompetent. This isn't like a little thing. The binders were mind-blowing. The fact that this is being covered up. I mean, to say if you care about Epstein, you're not MAGA. And that came from Donald Trump. But listen,
he called it stupid. He's gone after his own base.
You don't listen. If you're the president of the United States, you don't make a decision to do things like that, to make those statements without some input. I just want to know what's happening.
I think Stephen Miller is the guy that's really running the show. I've been saying that for years in his first administration. I think Stephen Miller is the guy that is calling all the shots. I've always believed that. I continue to believe that. I think Stephen Miller is one of the main reasons why we have so many issues with ICE, so many issues with people being treated the way they are when it comes to immigration. I think Stephen Miller is a huge culprit of this. Now, I'm not saying Stephen Miller's in the Epstein files. Clearly, Donald Trump is, but
I'll just give you this, Brian. I mean, listen, I have two separate, very high-level sources in the White House, and you can take it for what it's worth, because I'm not going to tell you who it is. Yeah, obviously, I got to protect it. Two separate high-level sources in the White House have told me that Wiles and Bondi are working together to undermine the justice and accountability initiatives. They've outright told me that. So whether it's true or not, I mean, you could take it for what it's worth. It's two sources.
Well, Donald Trump has the ability to fire them.
He does. And that's the problem that I have is why? Why in God's name? I mean, how do you not hear what's happening? How do you not see your approval numbers crashing? How do you not see people? I mean, we're not going to let child rape go. We're not going to let ritualistic child abuse and murder go. And
because I don't think Donald Trump cares. I think he only cares about himself and enriching himself and his close people around him. I don't think Donald Trump cares about America. He doesn't care about the middle class.
Even if that's true, let's take this to its logical conclusion. Let's say he only cares about himself. And I don't agree with you on that, but let's say that that's the case. If the Democrats win big in the midterms, they're going to impeach him. They just are. And then they're going to go after him. He's never going to get any peace out of this. We saw what happened after he left his first term. You know, it's not like they just let him go away. They kept coming after him. Now, you can say maybe they wouldn't this time, but why would you trust that if you're Donald Trump? Listen, if Donald Trump was doing this, if this was a self-preservation thing, if he didn't care about anything but himself, he would want to make damn sure that he wasn't going to get in trouble when he left, that people weren't going to be able to go after him. This is
it's a little bit too late for that. Jack Smith testified under oath, and I think he's got a lot of problems when he leaves office if he makes it that long. I think he's got a lot of legal issues when it comes to Jack Smith. He can try him when he leaves office.
Jack Smith is mind-blowingly, what he did was wildly inappropriate. The guy wasn't
by what standards?
He wasn't even legally appointed.
Jack Smith has worked under a plethora of different administrations. He's been doing this for 30 plus years. He's gone after Democrats.
You wanted a court ruling. The court said he wasn't legally appointed.
Okay, well, that's news to me. Then why did he testify in front of the House? Why did Jim Jordan? Why did the Republicans want him to testify?
They brought him in because they were trying to say, "What the hell were you doing?"
And you don't think that he had legal grounds to do what he did? And you don't think there was sufficient evidence? You don't believe Jack Smith? You think he's lying?
I think Smith's cases were terrible. I think it's awful. I think the whole thing
I kind of trust Jack Smith, and I don't believe that he would just lie to go after. By the way, this has ruined his life. Do you understand that Jack Smith's life will never be the same again? That he can walk into a restaurant with his family in any place in the country, and he has to worry about threats. He put his entire career and his life on the line, I believe, to tell the truth. About what he said Donald Trump did.
You have as much evidence of that as I do to say, no, he did it because he thought Biden was going to win, and he thought he could get a legacy, trying to be the guy that took down Trump.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought Jack Smith was legally appointed to legal counsel.
Maybe I've got it wrong. We are 3.5 hours in, so
I thought he was. I thought he was legally appointed.
His cases were. I will tell you this. Even if I got that wrong, I did review his cases, and I don't, again, 3.5 hours in, I might have this off, but 3.5 hours in, I will tell you that when I reviewed his cases, they were not good. It was just, there were issues. Every single one of these legal cases against Trump, there were issues with every single one.
Well, then try it in a court. But the reason why it's not happening right now, and I believe, and it's pretty obvious, is because Donald Trump was reelected. So try it in a courtroom. But I'm going to trust Jack Smith on this one.
Yeah, we're going to have to agree to disagree on Jack Smith. Because
Fair enough. But it is almost 11 o'clock. We've been doing this, Tom.
I'm East Coast, brother.
Oh my goodness! So
we're 1:38
guess what?
Here. That's why I'm
Here's the bad news for me. I got to do a radio show tomorrow.
Right.
I got to do a show tomorrow.
No, I got to listen. I got my show, and my day starts every day a little before 7. And
you have a great PR assistant, by the way. I don't know if we want to. I don't know if she wants to be a part of this. I won't say her name.
I'll shout out to producer Andrea. Producer Andrea was she did my production for a long time, and
Andrea's great. She's great. She does
great work.
She's very smart. I'm not sure I'd want to debate her. She's very smart. And she linked me up with you. So I certainly appreciate her for that. And, I actually went out to Reno a few months back and got a chance to grab a drink with her, but yeah, she's super cool. And people don't realize this about me, but I do have a lot of Republicans that I'm friends with. Tim Pool being one of them.
So, I mean, I'm going to just tell you that, we've talked a little bit, we haven't had much time, but we've talked outside. You're a reasonable guy. You're a decent dude, man. And we aren't going to agree on everything, but I do appreciate the fact that we can talk about this stuff, and it's a good forum, let people hear what we have to say. At the end of the day, I'm praying. I want Trump to come back to where I think he came from. You kind of look at it like he's a bad guy, but it's the same sort of thing, right? So when Biden was in,
I think he's a really bad guy.
Well, when Biden was in, I thought the same thing, and you were on the other side. So, I mean, but I do think that really one of the things that we're seeing here is, and by the way, if you want any information on any of the things that I can, the stuff that I work on, I have evidence on pretty extensive, right? So, like this Epstein stuff, I've looked at this real deeply, and I just, not everything. There's 3 million documents, but I'm going through it. And I'm trying to get it in my head, and I'm happy to work with you on this stuff. I appreciate that you listen. We got to come together, though. We got to come together and get people talking, because right now, Democrat or Republican, if you're not fighting for child rapists to go to jail, we got a problem.
Well, I certainly don't disagree with you on that one. That is for sure. Tom, I appreciate you coming on. I didn't think we would do this for almost 4 hours, but here we are, and I don't regret it. So good conversation, Tom. I appreciate your time. I need a better backdrop like you. I like all those books in the background. That's kind of a cool background. I appreciate that. Tom, we'll do it again, man, and I'm happy to do your podcast anytime. Maybe not for 4 hours, but this was fun.
Mine's 1 hour. Mine's 1 hour.
Fair. So 1 hour, okay, I'll be a little bit more fresh. But no, all seriousness, Tom, I appreciate your time, my friend. I really do. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Brian.
Thank you.